Welcome everyone to episode 7 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm here with Doug and Owen, and today we're going to be talking about something we've all been very excited to talk about. The new movie, Knock at the Cabin, from director M. Night Shyamalan, has been released, and we're going to be including that along with all of his other movies in a ranking of his entire filmography. Please share the episode, like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And we're going to start by going right into our list rather than doing a discussion of Knock at the Cabin, because we're probably going to be talking about all of these movies in at least a little bit of detail. I'm going to give some explanation as to how we're doing it. We all have our own personal rankings of his movies, but we're going to try to come to a consensus between the three of us.
We will
starting
try.
with starting with number 13 and working our way up to number 1, and then maybe at the end, if we want to make any revisions, we can try to do that, but that'll probably just be even messier. We'll see how much we agree. um
Yeah, we're not including
yeah, we're not
his
including.
debut film, Praying with Anger, which is ostensibly a student film, and we're not including Wide Awake, which is his first like studio film, and we're also not including his short film, Rise Up inspiration version.
Yeah.
Yeah. um
Um,
I am the only one who has seen Wide Awake. All I could really say about it is that I don't think it's very good. It's just
yeah.
it's got M Night things in there, but it's just boring. And if you want, Doug is the only one who has seen Praying with Anger, so if you want to say anything
Uh,
about that.
it's also not very good, but it's not like it's not that it's like a bad movie. It's that it's like it's like a student film that's made by like a 22-year-old because that's what it is, you know.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get into the list then. Probably goes without saying, but we're most likely gonna talk spoilers for a number of these movies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
a
So
this
thousand
is
percent.
spoilers
This
for
is
every single
a
one of these
thousand
movies.
yeah,
percent.
yeah, yeah.
For
Because
Okay.
all of his
we're not going
movies.
to talk about the Sixth Sense without talking about spoilers, like stuff like
Yeah, of
that. Like
course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like you got to be aware of that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So let's
Well,
start
okay, so
down with
ca-
number 13 then,
yeah,
all the
Yeah.
way at the bottom of our
um,
list. Um,
I would like to nominate
yeah.
The Last
I
Airbender.
would also like to nominate The Last
Whoa.
Airbender. And here's the
Yeah,
thing, it's like
I'm gonna
it's
go there
it's
too.
been I feel like we've been annoyed because people are like using The Last Airbender as like justification to like shit on M Night pretty much,
Yeah.
but it's like we can all kind of agree that this
Uh,
movie didn't need to
yeah.
be
So
made.
I don't think it's about as anyone's saying though. Like
No,
the fact that
No.
it has a 1.1 on Letterboxd is insane. Like that is a
Yeah.
number that I feel like should not be given to this movie. Yeah, it's bad.
yeah,
It's
that's
a
crazy.
terrible adaptation. A lot of people just need to grow up and like move on. But yeah, it's not
Yeah.
great. Um,
Okay,
I think the nature of like making that movie is just like there's not I don't think that anybody could have taken like this beloved TV show by like so many people, squeeze it into like a 90-minute movie and like please people. Like no director was going to
yeah.
turn that into something that people were going to be happy with.
It also
yeah,
was
and
never
it's
something
like
he wanted to make. Which
yeah,
like
Yeah.
it's there's that movie was destined to fail. There was no
yeah.
universe for this movie. It was like loved by people,
Mhm.
especially since M Night was already on people's shit list by the time this movie came
Yeah.
out. Um,
Yeah.
This
Well,
was like
I'm glad we could agree at least on our last
this is
spot
I
because
will
this is
say
going to be probably the only place
this is
where
the only time I think we will all agree
yeah.
on a movie.
yeah. I
Um
don't know though. I think me and Doug might have the
maybe
same number
a
1, but that's
random
way
one in
further
the
down the
no,
list.
yeah, you two will agree. So
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of to go into more Last Airbender stuff. It was basically like M Night was like they're shitting on the critics, they're shitting on my movies. I need to kind of save my career, do these big studio things. He's been getting scripts for years from all these big studios, but he's like, no. There's a great story where he's like, his dad's like, why don't you take these big movies? Like this is all this money. He's like, no, I want to make my small little like I want to make me movies. I want to make movies that really speak to who I am. But the critics of the happening and the lady in the water and even the village like really got to him, and was like, to save my career I have to do what they want me to do. And then he makes The Last Airbender, and it's like, you are the worst human ever. Like if you make this movie, like it's yeah. So I don't think it's as bad as anyone was saying, but it's like kind of not really anything he's ever wanted to do, and he's not
Yeah.
done it since after Earth. But he's kind
Like
of
The
got
Last Airbender
he's done
is
with that.
the Last Airbender is just kind of like a bad action movie,
Yeah, I
which
mean,
there's a lot of bad action movies in the world, so it's not
yeah.
like it's
yeah,
the
no.
same,
If
really.
What's the
Like
thing is like, it's like After Earth is way better. but like After Earth is kind of
Yeah.
a similar thing where it's like it's not it like if After Earth was a um like a TV show that everyone loved, people would hate that a lot, like way more. But it's just like no one talks about that, no one brings it up because it's not this TV show that everyone loves.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like
I
if The
think
Last Airbender wasn't a TV show that everyone loved, it wouldn't have been shit on that
yeah.
much.
I didn't even really because like I watched like Avatar when I was like really young, but I
Yeah.
don't really have that much memory of it until I was like watching the movie when we
Oh
were
yeah, and
doing this M Night binge,
you're like,
and
wait
I
a
was like,
minute.
oh, I was like everything's coming back to me now,
Yeah.
and I do not like listening to this because it's like I don't know. I think my
Yeah.
biggest
It's
frustration with the movie is that it's just like the whole movie is just like dialogue trying to summarize the entire show in like 90 minutes. Like it's like they're
Yeah.
just giving you it's literally that's what I said in my review too. I was like, this is literally just a spark notes of the Avatar show like played over a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the entire first book basically,
Yeah, yeah.
in one movie. And the first book, if I haven't seen the show in a very long time. I tried to rewatch it a little while ago, and I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, but
No, it's fine. I
that
mean,
are like
we,
invested
yeah,
in it.
yeah.
But
we aren't gonna take
uh,
offense to it, but some people
No,
listening
yeah,
might.
it is interesting though, because I think like I'm not at all interested in the show, but I think as like if it was like an M Night movie that he kind of had more control on and kind of was playing with these things in a more interesting way, I think it would have been really interesting. Like I think I would have liked to see a good version of this, but that's just not the case.
Yeah.
yeah, and I honestly, when I rewatched it for preparation of this podcast, I wanted to like it.
Yeah.
I
No, of
wanted to
course. I
Yeah,
wanted to be
same.
like, yeah, actually guys, The Last Airbender is like sneaky good.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not,
exactly.
but
It's not.
it's just fine. It's just like a fine kids movie. That's really all it is. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like this auteur like hidden
I
gem.
feel like
Yeah,
if
it's
I
just there
saw
was
it when
like
it came out, I would have like a sense of like nostalgia and like
Yeah, no,
actually
I
care
saw
about
it.
it a little bit.
I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters when I was like 7,
Oh, really?
but it's not like I have
yeah,
any
I saw
connection
it.
to it because I don't really care. It wasn't a movie that
I saw it
really.
in theaters when I was 9,
Yeah.
and I liked it when I saw
Yeah,
it in
no,
theaters
I'm sure I
when
liked
I
it
was
when I was
9.
in theaters.
Yeah.
But it's
I
just not
only
a
watched
movie
it
I
for the
like
first
ever
time
watched again.
now.
Really,
That makes sense. Yeah.
probably the
I
first
don't
M
know.
Night. Probably the first M Night I saw.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah,
Wait, that's actually so interesting.
yeah.
Like it's
Now
not
that I'm thinking about
interesting
it,
because it makes sense,
yeah, I
but
saw The Last Airbender when I was 7 in theaters, and then I think like in 6th grade, I saw The Sixth Sense.
yeah, I imagine the Sixth Sense. Oh, maybe The Happening is the first one I saw. Actually, I don't know. The only
Interesting.
ones I watched as a kid were like The Happening and The Sixth Sense. Anyway,
Yeah,
let's move into our number 12 spot here because this is where the debate really
this is
starts.
where the shit hits the fan.
I
Who wants to
Don't
make their
say it,
suggestion
please.
Okay,
first?
okay. I would like to nominate The Happening
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow.
at number 12.
Wow, that's not what
That's
I actually no. I kind of did expect that a little bit.
yeah, from an idiot.
Um,
No, I'm just kidding. I love The Happening. I love that.
Yeah, The Happening is
Um,
significantly further up my
yeah,
list, so
yeah.
I'm definitely gonna argue a
Uh,
little bit, but
oh, yeah.
I
Let's argue him out of the room, Kev. What are you gonna say?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, we gotta agree. We gotta
Yeah,
come
yeah,
to
yeah. Okay,
some
well the
Oh
agreement.
thing
no, I
is
know
like
what Kevin's. Kevin, what
The
are you
Happening
saying
is
here?
not okay.
What are
You're
you
not
going
gonna
with?
like
Is
neither of
it
you are
is
gonna
it?
like
No, yeah, I
this.
know it is.
My number 12 is old.
No, get out of here. No. Do not bring up old again for like another hour, okay?
Yeah.
No, that's so.
Listen,
Oh.
listen. Here's the thing. There's with my numbers like I'd say numbers 6 to 12. I'm
Yeah,
willing to like
that's a big
negotiate
piece.
significantly. Where it's like if you
Okay.
but The Happening is my number 6, so it's like I
Oh
don't think
wow.
I'd want to put it. I don't think I'd want to put it at number
No,
12.
no,
But
no,
it's
no. I
like
don't feel comfortable at putting The
I feel
Happening at
like
12 at all.
I'd be willing to move old like significantly up based on like where you guys want to have it. It's just that
Yeah.
like my top 5 are like the ones I really kind of care about, and then everything after that
Yeah.
I'm kind of
No.
like I could have like room on, you know,
Yeah.
like
I kind of
I'll
feel a
hear stuff
similar
out.
way. Like my
It's
top
just like
5 isn't
yeah,
really
old is
so.
just low for me because I like I just it just doesn't interest me. Like it's not like it's a
Yeah.
bad movie. Like when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. I'm like, this is just boring to me, and like that's the problem with it.
Gotcha.
So, okay, the reason why I nominated The Happening so low on the list is because I love every other one of these movies except for maybe like one movie.
Yeah. So it's
Um,
not necessarily like it's a bad movie. It's just
no,
these
it's
are
not.
all
Yeah, it's just
good.
like
Something has to be at the bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like something has to be at the bottom. That's a great way to put it. Like I'm not saying like
Also,
the happening's the
That's
worst
kind of
thing
how
ever.
I
But like
feel.
also, yeah, we need
My
Owen's pick here because I think his pick is my next one, so that might be a
Okay.
good thing to put
Yeah,
low
my
on
number
your
12
list.
is The Visit.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't seen The
it's so
Visit in
low.
a while, but it's just kind of like I don't see it'll ever kind of go higher. I just think the rating will be higher. Like I think I rewatch, I'll
Mhm.
probably like, oh yeah, this is probably a little higher, but I don't think it's going to climb the ladder. So that is why I'm comfortable putting it at 12.
Yeah. Because
I am
that's my next
okay.
pick after old. So that's why I'm like, if we both have it like pretty much at the bottom of our list, I
Yeah,
feel like
I'm
we
sure.
should
I
definitely
think
have
Doug
that
has
movie pretty
probably a
low.
little higher.
I no no you know what? No, I'm fine. I'm fine with this. We can put the
Is
visit at
it?
number
Yes, at
12.
12.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with this.
All
This is
right.
okay.
Where would you put it on your list? Or do you not? I mean, you
I
don't
don't
have
know.
like an
He doesn't
okay.
I
have
don't
it.
know.
It's
It
yeah,
would be higher.
He's
It
just
would
yeah.
be higher, but it's
Okay,
yeah.
fair enough. Okay, yeah,
all
we could
right.
be comfortable
Because
putting the visit.
I like the
Do we
visit a
want to
lot.
talk about the visit at all? I
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can
sure. We
talk
can
about the
do it.
visit.
Yeah, we should because we talked about the
yeah,
last Airbender
Um,
for a while.
because you were like scared of the visit, Doug. Like you were like,
yeah, it was like the scariest movie ever for me, almost. I
Wow.
don't know, it really freaked me the fuck out. But then it's like, I hate being like, oh, the twist kind of deflated it a little
Yeah.
bit. But I think it might be like my least favorite M Night twist,
yeah.
honestly,
The thing
just
about
because it's like
the
it's
twist
Yeah.
is that
so
I knew it.
grounded.
I knew the twist, so maybe that's why the visit is so low on my list. Because I went into watching the visit already being familiar with the twist, not like technical. Like I just knew that I had seen the visit back when it came out, and I didn't know the
Hmm.
twist. And then I started watching it, and I was like, oh wait, I know what's about to happen at the end now. Like it like came back to my memory, and I was like, well, this kind of like for me that kind of deflated the movie because it was like I don't
Interesting.
know, like I already knew. It's the same thing like with rewatching The Sixth Sense, but like The Sixth Sense, like that twist doesn't
Yeah,
matter because I've seen that movie so many times. So
I
yeah,
remember seeing the visit like I think last year, and I didn't know the twist, and I actually it was a surprise to me, but it wasn't like a like this is groundbreaking kind of thing. It was like oh okay. It's just for me,
Yeah,
it's more of like the characters and the themes and the found footage aspect are just not my favorite. But it's also another thing. It's like I don't hate the movie. It's just like a movie
I
that,
really don't like that little boy. If we're talking about the characters, I'm
yeah,
sorry. I
he's
can, like as soon as he
yeah.
raps for the first time, I'm like, there's no redeeming this character
It's
for me. Like it's
yeah.
oh, see, that stuff doesn't
You
bother me at
love you,
all.
but I don't I don't mind him. It's just out of all M Night movies, it's the weakest with the characters for me. Um,
yeah, that makes
and
sense. I don't know.
yeah,
It's like
For
no, I
me,
see
the
what
two
you mean. How it doesn't
characters
bother you, but it's just
were
like
pretty. I just thought they were pretty believable kids. You know,
no,
I
yeah,
yeah,
thought they
yeah,
it's
acted
like
like
they're
how
not
real kids
negatives, but
acted.
they're really not positives. Is I guess what I'm getting at.
yeah.
That's fair.
No,
I think that the visit, and we're gonna bring this up a lot, but I think that like the visual language of the visit was really strong, and that was
Oh
really
yeah,
scary. But then like at the end of the visit, when it's just revealed that the old people are just crazy old people,
yeah,
it
it
just
does
it
kind
like
of. I guess on
it
rewatch, it would kind of ruin that. Or
yeah,
from
it
then
just didn't
on,
make me scared of them. I was like,
um,
why is this
it
scary?
would be
Because
really
literally,
interesting if it was this like
I thought there was
there
still
was this like
tension after the reveal.
Lovecraftian kind of thing where they like turned into
yeah,
some
that's
like
what I thought it
big
was.
like yeah
Yeah, I thought they were like aliens or
yeah
like monsters or some shit.
yeah.
But it's like, and this that's like on me. But that's why I was scared. I was scared because I was
Yeah.
like, there is
But
something
it's
fucking
almost that's
wrong
kind of
happening,
like
and
the
it's like
twist is like the
supernatural.
twist is like there's not actually like
Yeah,
supernatural. It's almost like
but then
it's
like
like
they
a
find
reversed
out.
M Night twist where it's like
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but then
yeah.
when they find out that they're just old people, I was just thinking like, this isn't really scary because
Yeah.
like there's still that whole like section where like the girl fights the old lady,
Yeah.
and I
yeah.
was thinking like, man, I could beat the shit out of that old lady. You know what I meant?
Yeah.
That's what I
No.
kept thinking. I was like, I could beat the shit out of a normal ass old person. Like,
Yeah, no, I totally see like the thing where like it's like M Night is always working with these supernatural elements, so it's almost like you go into it and you're like, oh, M Night movie, old people, there's something up here. It's almost the twist is actually we're gonna do a reverse of what we do, but it's almost like I wish he kind of did what he normally does because I think that would be more
yeah,
interesting because I like what he normally does, and it's almost like M Night was like, oh, you hate what I normally do, I'm gonna do the opposite, and it's like and people
yeah,
like people decently like the visit, but I just wish he kind of it was more
yeah. I like the
crazy and
visit a lot still.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
like the visit.
I didn't even take what Doug said into account, but now that I think about it, I'm like, damn, maybe I do like that less because it's like, because my when I was watching it, I was like, I still feel like there's tension at the end because like even like after you find out that they're different old people, I'm like, this is still scary because like these kids are still trapped here. But now that I think about it, I'm like, damn, they really could just beat the shit out of these people. So
Yeah,
maybe
they're just
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
there really
yeah.
They
is
just
not that
old
much tension.
people.
Like, and they kind of do. I mean, that's kind of how they get out of the situation.
Yeah. I yeah, no,
um,
it's a good it's a good movie. I just it's comparatively it has to be kind of
Um,
towards the bottom.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. My only other kind of like negative thing about the movie, and this is also just another plot thing, because I think the language of the film is so strong, and I think he does build
mhm.
tension really well. It's just like my only issues are really just kind of plot things. It's like at the end of the movie, it's revealed that she edited together all of the footage herself and made the
Oh
movie
yeah.
herself, and it's like you like made a movie full of like tension and jump scares of like your own like
Yeah, I
traumatic
know. I mean,
experience.
It
it's
does
an
take you out
interesting
of it
one.
a little
Yeah,
bit,
she
actually.
couldn't have like
I
hired
do.
a dude on Fiverr to like set that up or
Yeah,
anything.
I
like
I wasn't as scared of the visit either. Like when you told us that it was that terrifying, it like didn't do that to me, except for that one moment that you mentioned, like early on in the movie, where they go
Oh yeah.
under the
No,
deck
the
and they're like
visit has
falling through
like
that
I
little crawl
visit has
space.
like
I was
some
like,
scary ass moments.
yeah, that was scary to
yeah.
me. But then it
I
kind of like
think
it lost all the scariness after that for me. I feel like.
I think The Visit is M Night's scariest movie by far,
Mm,
and it's
I
not close.
Yeah, I'm
um,
cool with that. And I think we'll talk. I kind of talked about this later with Knock at the Cabin, but I think some people wanted the scariness of the visit to kind of be in Knock at the Cabin, which is like absurd because it's just a completely
Yeah.
different movie. But yeah, some people just want M Night to kind of be his older films sometimes, which is weird.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So that's semester number 12 then, which means we're moving on to number 11. Obviously,
So
old is still at the bottom for me then because the visit was my number 11. But what would you guys put
we're gonna
here?
need. I
Yeah,
think this is where we have to start making kind of like concessions a
Yeah.
little
yeah,
bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and the concession is not going to be putting old this low. I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, that's
I
fine.
don't think.
That's okay.
yeah. I
um,
honestly have
I
no
just
idea what we're gonna go here.
okay. See, the thing is like I don't mind bumping old up, like in my opinion. It's just like
It's how high we'll get.
it's just like I feel like the movies that you guys are gonna want to put at the bottom here are gonna end up being like some of the ones that I like the most.
Yep.
well, so okay, I'm going to be very transparent here. I think the I think that the movies that M Night made after the visit, but before After Earth, sorry, after the village, but before After Earth, are just. I think that's just when he was in a slump, and I think those are just like some of his weakest
So
movies.
you want to put Lady
Wait,
in the Water down here?
I'm not saying that. I'm just
wait. So you're
saying
saying post Village, and then what
So Lady in
before
the
the
Water,
visit?
Lady in the Water, and The
it's the
Happening.
it's the Lady in the Water, The Happening, and The Last Airbender. I think are three of his
Okay.
weakest films.
Okay.
Um,
Lady in the
which
Water is pretty low on my list, but it's too high on Owen's list for us to put it number
yeah,
11.
yeah, but so here's my thing. I'm not saying that we should put Lady
No.
in the Water this low because I think that Lady in the Water, although I don't think it is a great film, I don't think it's a great
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
I still think it's a good movie, and I think that it is like an important kind of artistic statement for M Night as an author.
Uh-huh.
To like for him to make. So I think that if we take all that into account, I think we could like I think that me and Kevin could maybe allow it to float towards the top of the
Yeah.
top half of the
Okay.
list.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, because
What
it's
do you
it,
guys have for 11? We just want to go into that, I guess. Or
Oh,
what do you
okay.
kind
Here's
of
the thing.
think?
I just,
yeah.
I really don't want the Sixth Sense to be this low, but I don't want to fight for it to be any higher. Does this make sense? Because I think that's
Um,
like where we're heading.
I
Um,
think I think I'm the only one that would fight for the Sixth Sense because this is where Owen would also
yeah.
have the
So
Sixth
I
Sense.
have the Sixth Sense here, and it's like, it's just really one that doesn't kind of ring with me or sit with me. And it's obviously good. Like it's really like the 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 average Joe's favorite night kind of thing. And it's I think it's good. It's just I'm far more interested in the stuff that M Night does post
If it were up to me,
Unbreakable.
I'd at least want to move the Sixth Sense up like 2 spots from here at the minimum. But if we have to put it this low, yeah, that'd be
Okay.
painful for me. But the Sixth Sense is my number 3, so I would prefer not to put it all the way down here. But I don't know, like
Yeah.
other than old, because obviously we're in agreement that we can't put old this low. My next up is also a movie that you guys aren't going to want to put this low because
Oh nah.
the next one on my list would be After Earth.
Yeah.
Um, So
okay. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We need to.
Chill
We're
the
yeah.
talking about
fuck
the
out,
Sixth Sense
Kevin.
right now. We're talking about the Sixth Sense right now. I
Kevin, talk
think.
about why
Okay,
you
here.
like
How
that
about
movie.
this? Okay, so the two movies that I think, the two movies that I think we need to pick between as a group
Happening.
to put in this spot is The Happening or The Sixth Sense.
Yep.
I think one of those
Uh,
two movies has to go here.
I
okay. I
yeah.
vote The Happening then because I'm not putting The Sixth Sense this low. But I don't like putting The
Yeah.
Happening this low. But yeah, I say we put The Happening here if that's the case.
Um
I just because here's the thing. Like, okay, Owen, how do you feel? Okay, let's recap so far. This is gonna be a
yeah.
fucking mess. So we have The Last Airbender,
Yep.
right?
The
And
Visit.
then we have The Village. Oh, The
The
Visit.
Visit.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Visit.
Yeah, The Visit.
And then we need the next
And
spot.
now, yeah, in the next spot, right? How do we feel about it being The Happening versus how do we feel about it being The Sixth Sense? And people listening at home
Um
probably think we're fucking insane right
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
Well, because
Um
both of those movies are in the top half of my ranking, so it's
I'm
like the movies that
honestly
want to put
I'm
down
honestly
here.
cool with either. Um just because like it's neither of them are really ones that I think I care about the happening a lot more. So I would in my head like it's obviously the Sixth Sense because that's just how my board is already shaping up. Um, but it's not like I don't care about the happening so much like something like Old or Lady in the Water where it's like it'll be like the end of the world for me there.
I think
So
I think the agreement
with
we
my
should come to is
reasoning,
that Doug
with
and me both have The Happening lower than The Sixth Sense, so it makes more sense to put The Happening here than it does The
yeah,
Sixth
and
Yeah.
Sense.
another thing that I want to say too, which is like maybe kind of what I was saying about Lady in the Water, where like Lady in the Water is kind of like this important artistic statement for M. Night, even though I don't think it's a great movie. And that's why it should be floated higher than necessarily I would have it in like a personal ranking. I think that The Happening is maybe not that like great, like
Yeah.
important of an
Yeah.
artistic statement and like the M. Night canon, even if
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I'm cool with
you know what I mean.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Although I do have to
Even
say,
though
The
I think
Happening
it's
is like some of
egregious,
my
but
favorites.
it's also like something has to go there. So it's like
Yeah, I don't know. The Happening I think is like one of the more interesting movies he's made, like
yeah, no,
themes
I think the
wise,
happening
because
is fascinating, and I think we've been
that's like
going
kind of that's
bat
kind
for
of what
that
I've come
movie a lot
to.
online recently,
Yeah.
but I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it at 11, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Okay, so are
if
we
that's
going The Happening 11, and then are we going to go The Sixth Sense 10?
I mean,
Yeah, I think so.
if those are our only options,
Yeah,
then
I
yeah,
think we kind of have to.
yeah,
Okay, so to recap, right?
yeah.
We
I
have
could
The
recap.
Well,
I
it's
Last
have it
because
here.
like we
Airbender.
can't make like the Sixth Sense is 11, and then it was like actually it's gonna be like fucking 7 now. Like it's like
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, we could revise it as we go, of course. But yeah,
yeah.
like
We can come back. We can come
we have
back.
the Last Airbender and last, then the Visit, then the Happening, and now the Sixth Sense, and we're on to number 9. But first, we should probably
Yeah,
talk about the Happening and the Sixth Sense at least in a little bit of
yeah,
yeah.
detail.
yeah.
Because
The
these are two
Happening
movies
gets
that I
too
really like.
much shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Happening gets way too much shit.
I
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
another one
it
where
is
it's like
so
this
like
has like
rich with themes.
I think it's very strong, and I think the performances are really fun, and I think it's a really fun movie to watch. And I think M Night
Yeah,
is shooting the movie really well, and it's interesting, and the themes are interesting, and it's just a fun, interesting movie. And I think people are like really cynical and being like, "That's not how movies are supposed to be." Like it's like
Yeah.
yeah.
okay,
It's a fun movie. I remember Zoe Deschanel being like off the perk in that movie.
I think she's phenomenal. I think she's phenomenal in that
Yeah.
Yeah.
movie.
I remember her performance being very silly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's
Yeah,
I talk about this a lot, but it's these performances are over the top, they are absurd, they are wooden, they are lifeless, and
yeah,
that is a direct kind of comparison to the way these people are acting. Like these people, like the people are like doing crazy things, and they're like the world is falling apart. And like they're acting absurd because the things that are happening are absurd. Like that's just I think it's really
yeah.
interesting.
I think people incorrectly try to call The Happening like satire, when it's not satire. And like M Night has been very open about what The Happening is.
Yeah.
He said that he was trying to make the greatest B movie ever, right?
Yeah,
But guess what? B movies are fucking dumb. B movies are about plants
I think the
coming to
greatest
life
B
and
movie
trying to
ever
kill you with
is a
air.
little higher on the
Like,
list, actually.
Oh.
yeah, but you know what
Okay.
I mean. That's like M Night's words.
No,
though,
no,
where he
yeah,
was
I
like,
think
yeah,
100%, and I think he succeeds in making a really great B movie, and I think people are like, I don't know, it's a really weird misinterpretation that happens a lot, where it's like, actually, that's not how movies are supposed to be, and it's like,
yeah,
it's weird. It's also like, I don't know.
I think it's also like so like and this is true to like a couple of his movies, I would say, but some of like the quote unquote like bad dialogue that his movies have according to people, like just because it like sounds silly, like a lot of times is still really meaningful. And I remember me and Owen were talking
Yeah.
about this when we watched The Happening together, where it's like there's a number of lines in The Happening where I'm like, oh, that's really sweet. Like I kind of like want to cry at that line. Like I'm like, this is
Yeah.
actually
So
really
I think
heartfelt,
M
and like
Night.
people writing it off as silly is like almost
Yeah.
kind of offensive because it's
I
like he
think
does that
M
in a
Night
couple of
is
movies.
really strong at getting his messages and themes across through
Yeah,
like quote unquote unconventional dialogue. But it's
yeah,
like people are like, "Oh, that's not how people talk." But it's like, are you listening to what they're saying? It's
yeah,
not necessarily how they are talking; it is what they are saying. And I think
yeah,
kind of people are like, "That's not how normal people talk," and they're not actually listening to what they're saying; they're just listening to how they're saying it. And it
I
yeah,
think something that people also get wrong about M Night dialogue is what you just identified when it's like that's not how normal people talk, right? Is that he
some
doesn't
people
make movies about normal
or
people.
normal things. Like
yeah,
this is all these movies
Yeah,
are kind of deep and supernatural elements, and like these crazy things are happening. But then it's like it's so deeply like anti-realism that people want it to be grounded in some way to kind of make sense of it. Which is also I think
yeah,
M Night does work in realism, like in grounded ways. But I think it's funny when people are like suspending disbelief in one area of the movie, but can't suspend disbelief on like this area. It's like
yeah,
it's
yeah. Well, specifically in old, that's something where I'm just like, come on, guys, where it's like people
yeah.
are like, people don't talk like this, and but it's like people also don't go to beaches that make you old. Like, why can't you
yeah,
suspend your belief in
yeah.
one place
It's
but
Yeah.
not the
like
other? Like,
I don't know.
And like with dialogue in general, it's like that like naturalistic sounding dialogue is not like the only dialogue that exists. And I feel like
Yeah,
it's just something that I have to like even outside of M. Night, like something that I have to defend because I see it in so many other places where I'm like, these are movies that I like and like the dialogue doesn't sound natural. It's like just making dialogue that sounds like true to real life is not the only way you can make a movie. You know what I
well,
mean? And
yeah.
it's like
It's
I feel like we had that conversation when we all watched Twilight, where it's like Twilight is such a fun movie. Like, who
yeah.
cares if it sounds
Well,
silly? You
it's
know what I mean? It's
Twilight
like
is
dialogue could
adapting
sound
like this
silly.
like
Like,
YA like romance novel. Like, why do we want
yeah,
it to sound like what about vampires and werewolves? Why do we want it to
yeah,
sound like some random dude
or
on the street?
we could even take it further, like Pulp Fiction, one of the
yeah,
greatest screenplays of all time. Nobody, like, people don't
Yeah,
actually really talk like that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like it is. Pulp Fiction is like it has a style that is very conversational, right? So like I think it makes it you believe that like, oh, people talk like that in this world, and that is super
yeah,
believable, right? But
yeah,
people do not like talk like that in real life,
yeah, yeah.
really.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it is. It is very interesting. It,
It's
it
just weird.
almost
It's just
seems
weird
like
that it's such a critique of his movies and
yeah,
like not
yeah.
applied to any other situation. You know what I mean? The only
it.
time
Yeah,
I see it applied is like YA stuff, like because I'm a big
yeah.
fan of like all those like high school movies, and
But
obviously they sound like a little not true to real life sometimes, but
and
like
a lot of
that's part of it.
YA criticism is rooted in like sexism.
Yeah,
So it's like even
of
that's like not
course.
super valid. Like
It's
Yeah, it's just
it's yeah no
frustrating. It's
it's
just
really
frustrating
comes from this
when
place of like wanting every movie to act the same and play by the same rules. It is like you're
yeah,
taking
like
one
like
movie.
it's like people are saying there's a right way to make a movie,
Well,
which
you're
like
taking
there isn't.
you have
exactly.
this kind of image. People have this image of a perfect movie in their head, and they're kind of holding that here. And then when they're watching the movie, they're like, "Is this acting this way, or is this acting the way I want it
Yeah.
to act?" Instead of like just kind of believing in what the director is telling you. Or
Yeah, so like people will watch The Village, right? Get to the scene where what's his name? Mark Wahlberg is like
you mean
side-eyeing the fake plant.
happening?
Or oh yeah, sorry, fuck. I keep saying The Village. Um people people will watch The Happening. God
Yeah,
damn. People will watch The Happening and get to the scene where Mark Wahlberg is like giving side-eye to like the fake
yeah,
plant
yeah.
and like obviously freaked out about it and goes like we're cool or whatever. And people are like watching that scene and being like, man, this M Night guy has no idea what he's doing. This is so stupid. And it's like, are you
Yeah.
for real right now? You
It's
think
like
that
have
he's
you
not doing
that's
this
the
on
thing, it's like have
purpose?
you been
Like,
watching the whole movie? Because like when you're talking about like these kinds of like how people kind of box it into like, oh, like these are the rules that you're supposed to follow when you make a movie or whatever. It's like, yeah, those things kind of apply when it completely like just distracts you. You know what I mean? Like if you have like the super serious movie and then like, an hour into the movie someone just says something like completely ridiculous, and then it goes back to having the serious tone for the rest of the movie. It's like that line is out of place. You know what I mean? But that's not like when you're watching these movies, it's like you know what these movies are already going to be like. Like you know how M
Yeah.
Night writes his dialogue
M
already.
Night
So it
is
doesn't really make
extremely
sense.
good at balancing tones. And the
Yeah,
tone is either going to be up here or it's going to be down here, but he sticks to his tones really, like, he's really consistent in his sticking to his tones. Like, The
yeah,
Happening has a very different tone from The Village or The Visit, or, but even though, like, even in his movies, I think, like something like The Visit, there's like really like sharp contrast with these tones, but he's able to like blend them like really well.
Yeah.
yeah. And I think this also, if you guys want to talk about the Sixth Sense, I think this also kind of like contrasts nicely with the Sixth Sense, because I think when you were saying like the Sixth Sense is kind of like the, like the regular person's kind of like, oh, this is the best M Night movie,
Hmm.
because it's like the Sixth Sense follows like these traditions that M Night kind of breaks in most of his other stuff, like in terms of like kind of like the like quote
Yeah.
unquote like rules more like when you look at the script of the Sixth Sense, and I don't know, maybe this is why it's one of my favorites, but like yeah, it's like it's written with much more like naturalistic dialogue. Like there's
Yeah.
not really anything silly in the Sixth Sense. It's like very much like a script that abides by like what you would expect a regular like standard screenplay to follow.
I
um
think yeah, I think his first couple films do
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
number, but
Well,
the Sixth
so
Sense is definitely,
I think
the Signs does it as well, I would
M
say.
Night
Like for
has
Signs it's just
grown
straightforward,
through
but
his
it's funny.
career
Signs is funny.
a lot.
People talk really weird in Signs. They talk
Yeah.
really fucking
Right,
Yeah,
weird
I
in
think
kind
that's
of.
Signs.
kind of. I think so. I think M Night at the beginning of his career is growing and learning how to make movies in the quote unquote traditional way, so he can really master that like element. So then he can fucking bounce off. Like
Yeah,
he
it's like
shows that he
it's
can do it the way that people want him to do it, and then he's like, okay, now I want to try this, and I want to bounce off.
you have to learn the rules before you can break the rules, right?
Exactly, and
Yeah,
he
Yeah.
shows that he can learn the rules and play by the rules and do the movie in the way that people have been making movies for thousands, not thousands, but decades, right? And then
yeah,
he's like, okay, and now let me experiment, and people are like, that's not how you make movies. But yeah, I think that's why I'm so attracted to his later works, because he is experimenting and he's playing with things and he is finding
Um
his using his
yeah.
voice to kind of make these really
I
interesting things.
More about the Sixth Sense though, since that's the
mhm,
movie we're on.
yeah,
And a lot of people are gonna listen to this and be like, "It's ranked so fucking low,"
Yeah,
and like I get it. I understand why Owen thinks. I understand why Owen thinks it's like one of like M Night's worst, or like worst might not
it's
be
like
the
it's
worst, but
yeah, it's
like lesser,
it's
like
just
one of his lesser
it's
films.
kind of one of those things again where it's like something has to be at the bottom, and I'm far more interested in when M Night experiments, and I think this is
yeah,
Yeah,
just
and
not that case.
I understand
yeah,
why Kevin thinks it's one of M Night's best films. I'm
yeah.
like in between you
Well,
guys, and
yeah, because
I
the thing
like a lot
is
of M Night
like
movies more, but
the thing is like
but this movie's really good.
a lot of the stuff I connect with like throughout his movies is like just captured in the Sixth Sense because of like how traditional it is, I guess. Because it's like
Yeah.
I think the fact that he does stick to like making a movie that's less like silly and a bit more serious makes it possible for me to like feel so emotional about the Sixth Sense, which is like the one thing I wanted to bring up is that like the Sixth Sense, other than one other movie that I'm going to mention, the Sixth Sense is easily like the most emotional of his movies for me. Like that's the one where like I
Interesting.
get the biggest amount. Like I cried a lot during the Sixth Sense because
Yeah.
I think the relationship between the mom and her son, and that one scene towards the end of the Sixth Sense where they're talking in the car, like I just break into tears when I watch
Yeah,
that scene. I'm like,
Great
this is
that's one
scene.
that's
of
really powerful, like
Um,
writing
yeah, I
and
was gonna
like
bring that up.
everything about it.
I think that's one of his best scenes in any movie is
Yeah,
that car scene. That scene is really great. And
interesting.
like I just want to okay, I don't want to suck off this movie too much. This is, like one of like
yeah,
this is a
pretty
movie
low on
that
our
has been like
list now.
Yeah.
yeah, well, but it's been talked about like
Yeah,
forever.
To
of
It's
death.
course.
like
Yeah.
it's not a
Yeah,
there's other movies that we're gonna have to really defend.
yeah,
But The Sixth Sense is like, it has one of the greatest child performances in any movie
Yep.
ever, right?
Yeah, I was actually gonna
Tony Collette.
mention that because M Night is really great with working with child actors and kind of,
Hmm.
and I just actors in general, really. But he has this way of bringing out these really unique performances, in especially with like you can say with Haley Joel Osment and the other like I know The Visit like is the kid actors aren't the great, but I think he
yeah.
has this kind of interesting way of working with child actors and kind of bringing this strong performance out of them.
Yeah, and also
Yeah,
just the
like
other actors in The Sixth Sense, like Tony Collette and Bruce Willis are amazing in The
Yeah,
Sixth
that's
Sense.
what
no,
I was
They're
gonna
yeah.
say too.
really,
It's
I
like
really
mean,
good in
acting
that
and
movie.
yeah.
it's just it's crazy that he got all of these talented people to be in his
Yeah, like
movies
so early
off
on.
yeah,
Yeah,
so early on in his career. It's his third feature film and it's his second studio film.
yeah,
um
Yeah, and
that's
like
crazy.
no one was like, "Oh, Wide Awake, like this guy, everyone would go work with this guy." But
Right,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah, The Sixth Sense is stacked. Like Olivia
yeah.
Williams as
uh
well. Like this is
yeah, and like does the Sixth Sense have the most like culturally well known like the most famous plot twist of all time?
I
I
would
mean,
say,
Star
I
Wars
don't know.
probably,
I feel like,
maybe.
Oh, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
probably yeah, you're right,
yeah,
Star Wars.
yeah, that's
But I
true.
would say,
'Cause
yeah, it's maybe two or three.
I think The Sixth Sense has maybe one of the most like most famous like little like quotes in a movie for sure. Like the I see dead people
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
is definitely like maybe the most like so, but a lot of people I'd imagine a lot of people don't even know it's from that movie. Like at
Yeah,
least a good
well,
chunk of
it's
people.
so famous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
like
kind of
that
transcended
that
M
yeah, I was
Night.
gonna say it like transcends the movie.
Yeah.
That
It's
quote
like
is
well,
so
it's like Star
famous.
Wars, like it's like the I am your father and like the total
Hmm.
twist thing that is so linked in with Star Wars that
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, that's from
Yeah,
Star Wars. But I think
Yeah.
uh
It's
the
almost like
Sixth
not a
Sense kind of
twist because you can't watch it without
yeah,
knowing it
yeah.
at that
But the
at
Sixth
this
Sense, like,
point.
I think kind of works on like a level where it's like it kind of transcends M Night again. Where and M Night obviously isn't as popular as
Yeah.
Star Wars. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, all
he
I
should
know
be.
is that when I was like very young, I used to talk about the Sixth Sense twist nonstop. Like I would literally tell all my friends, I was like, "This is the craziest thing in the
yeah,
world." Like this is because it is like when you watch it not knowing that, it is really like that insane. Like
Well, that's I
especially if you're
think
not familiar with him at all.
that's another really strong thing about the Sixth Sense. Is that it is so accessible.
Yeah,
Where like people that even don't like care about movies or like don't understand the craft of cinema or like anything like that, right? They could sit down and watch The Sixth Sense for the first time and just be like, "That's a really good movie," you know? Like,
yeah, yeah, and it's also like really, I don't know. You mentioned The Visit, and I was like thinking about it because I was like, yeah, maybe I agree with you, but honestly, I like The Sixth Sense might be the scariest of his movies for me, like the one that
yeah, I
I
think
was the
Sixth Sense
most
is
scared while
scary.
watching, because there's a number of scenes in The Sixth Sense, and especially when I was younger. Obviously, now it's like
yeah, it
now that I
freaked me out
know
as a
that
kid.
they're coming, it's not the same, but like.
Yeah,
But there's a number of scenes in The Sixth Sense that really bother me, probably more than like any scenes in his movies, I would say. So that might be my pick for the scariest of his movies.
I think
Um,
that's valid.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have much else to say. I just really like The Sixth Sense. I wish
Yeah,
we could have
no.
ranked it higher, but
Yeah,
number 10 it is.
I will say I like almost every. There's two movies that I like less than The Sixth Sense that are less that are here,
Yeah.
but
Gotcha. Okay, well let's get into those then. Let's figure out what our number 9 here is because yeah, I don't know. I have to keep
Wait, so
recycling. I have to keep
yeah,
recycling old until you guys
can
agree
you
with it,
remind me
but
where we
no,
are?
you okay? Okay, here's okay. We're at number 9. So what we have done so far is starting from the bottom is The Last Airbender, The Visit, The Happening, and The Sixth Sense.
yeah.
Okay.
So we're up to
So
number
yeah,
9.
we're getting into the nitty gritty kind of like
Let's
Yeah. So I'm gonna be
we should
honest with
probably
you.
have a number of choices here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna okay, Kevin. And I hope that Owen has my back. Is there a way? Is there something that you would really want to put here that is not old, that we could just like so we can
Okay.
just get out of the way and be like,
Here's
me and Owen are gonna want to put old really high. I think.
here's the thing.
Um,
The next movies that are the 3 lowest on my list are 3 movies that I believe both of you are going to have really high, but the movie after that I think you guys could agree is maybe lower on your list. I know you
think
probably wouldn't
so.
want to put it at 9, but I think Split could go here maybe.
oh, okay. Do we
Um,
want to talk about the Glass trilogy real quick?
Yeah,
If we're
hang
there yet.
around.
because Split is the bottom of the Glass trilogy for me, but the next 3 lowest movies on my list are all like I imagine you guys want to have Old on the list, or
Yeah.
high on the list, I should say. I imagine you guys want to have After Earth high on the list, and I know that at least one person here wants to have Lady in the Water high on the list, but Doug doesn't. So maybe we could debate
That's a fraud.
putting Lady in the
So
Water somewhere in this range.
Uh, I think again. I keep saying that it's like even though I don't love Lady in the Water, I like we all like Lady in the
Yeah,
Water. None of us think it's like
the
a
rest of
bad
these movies
movie.
I like, by the
Yeah,
way.
I
Like,
I love most of these movies.
The only one of these movies I don't like is Old, but I know you guys want to have it higher. So like the rest after that, like all these
Wait,
movies
so
are movies I
what are we
like.
working with here? Old
So
after
I okay,
what?
okay. Let's talk about the let's talk about the
The
Glass trilogy real
Eastral
quick.
177
Because
trilogy.
Split's the lowest in
I
the Glass trilogy for me.
I think that Glass is the weakest of the three films.
I think
Okay.
Glass is easily number one for me.
Interesting. Okay, so we're all over the place.
And it's like
I'm
it's,
not gonna get what I want out of this. I'm not
Because
gonna lie.
Unbreakable is the highest out of the trilogy for me.
yeah,
I agree.
Unbreakable is the
Unbreakable is
bottom
the
for me.
best. Oh, fuck.
And Unbreakable is actually my 9 spot.
Interesting.
Wow.
Because Unbreakable is so
Unbreakable
interesting to me. Like,
is so good.
Yeah, no, I
think the
really
last
like Unbreakable. It's like a 4-star.
and you know what the thing
I'm gonna be
thing
honest.
is? I think out of the trilogy, Bruce Willis's character is my favorite, which is probably why I like Unbreakable the most.
Yeah,
I think Unbreakable is the best movie, at least.
Oh, that
Like,
as well. Yeah.
Well,
I
I
think James McAvoy with Kevin Wendell Crumb
it's
is
really good.
my
Yeah.
favorite character in the trilogy. That's why I have Split higher than Unbreakable. And I also think I just really like the Glass a lot. I think it's
Yeah,
one of
I think
M.
Glass is
Night's.
I think Glass
I
is a
think Glass
little
M. Night's
overrated
one
in
of
my
M. Night's
opinion.
best shot movies.
I agree with
Really?
that.
You think Glass is
No,
his best
I
shot
agree with
movie?
that.
One
No,
of-
not his
one of-
best.
one of-
One
one
of
of-
one of
one
his
of-
best. One of his
What?
best.
Yeah, no, I do.
I think
That's
Glass
crazy.
is awesome.
I will stand on the
like,
table for it.
visually.
I love
Yeah.
Glass.
Glass is
Okay.
interesting.
I've
I
seen
really
Glass
disagree
3
with
times
this.
this week.
Yeah, I watched it for the first time last night for this podcast so
Yeah.
I could have an opinion. It's a good movie. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
I definitely, in my opinion at least, I think it is firmly the worst of the trilogy.
Okay, well here's the thing.
I love-
Me and Doug both agree that Unbreakable is the best of the trilogy, so we know we can't put that at the bottom. That's automatically not allowed at the
Yeah.
bottom.
Wait, where do you guys? So you have? I'm guessing. So Doug, you guys both have split it too, or you've split it last, Kevin?
I have split
Kevin has split last,
trilogy.
which I think is crazy.
Wow,
But
this is
it's
a mess.
To be fair, they're right next to each other on my list, though. Like in
It's
terms
like,
of
yeah,
like all
it's
movies
like
ranked,
Glass, but yeah.
they're right next to each other.
I'm gonna be okay. Fuck, dude. I don't.
So we could,
oh god,
we
this
could
is.
put one of
So
we
wait,
could put
so-
one.
I don't know what to do.
Oh, but also, Doug, would you say that Lady in the Water is like around this range for you as well? Because
I think we have to. Owen. Okay, we're gonna have to make some compromises.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think
jeez,
we
man.
have to put Lady in the Water somewhere in here.
Somewhere in
um,
where?
I think we have to. I think we
Like
should put
it
it.
has to be one of the next few picks.
Yeah, but
because Lady in the Water is not making it to the top 3. I'm sorry. I don't think there's
Yeah,
any
no,
way.
I don't have Poe. No, it's like it's tough here
I
because
think-
this is like
I think we
really
could fit- I think we could fit Lady in the Water somewhere between 5 to 9. I think that's that's
because
the
my
most-
6 to 10 area is like all kind of I feel like the same about.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, we both kind of agree. Actually, at least me and Doug can agree that that Split and Glass will also be somewhere in this range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, if it was
Jeez.
up to me, I would put Glass right here. I think.
Glass is enough
But-
for number 9.
But I know that Owen really doesn't want to do that. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Because we're not putting Lady in the Water super high, I think we need to make some compromises with Owen, so Owen feels somewhat okay with the
This is
list.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Owen, what would
Wait.
you have down?
So wait.
You probably have Unbreakable down here, right?
So my next film is Signs,
Oh.
which I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That is
I know you guys have that really, 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 really high, which is like why I kind of even bring it up.
I thought
I-
that sign a lock for the top 3 for all of us.
Yeah, no. So it's for me, it's Signs and Unbreakable. Which is like, yeah.
I think we can agree that we need to put something in the Glass trilogy here at number 9.
do we? Okay. Do we
So
want
I-
to put Split here?
I think
Owen,
it
do you
has to be
hate putting
split.
Split here?
I think it has to be
Okay.
split. If we're going to
Yeah.
put one of them here and it's not Unbreakable, then it's split.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like that.
well,
I
yeah.
mean, like
and it's not
that's
the
kind
highest
of-
for you, Doug,
it's-
so that
because
seems-
Glass is literally my 4th movie, and then Unbreakable is 9.
Man, you have Glass so high. I wish I liked that movie as
yeah,
much.
it's my number 5 as well. So
That's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
like my Glass is way too high to be putting here. So like if it's not Unbreakable, it's not Signs, it's not The Village, then it is Split. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I would rather put Split here than any of those other movies.
Yeah. So yeah,
Um,
Split.
Okay.
Good movie.
So
Okay,
No, I
Split
feel like
number
this is
9.
like Split is so good, but like it's like
That's a really.
something
I want to be
has
very
to
clear
go
here.
here.
Split is a great movie.
yeah.
Split is fantastic.
Split
I
is a
think
very good
I
movie.
think James
There,
McAvoy
you could.
gives one of the best performances in a while,
I
and I
think
think
I was gonna
you could
say
if
argue it might be the
anyone
best performance
if
in all of
anyone
them.
cared about M Night at
Yeah,
all, that fucking performance we talked about to death. Because I think the performance
Yeah.
and I'm
is
gonna be totally
brilliant.
honest here. If you haven't seen any of these movies, if you've never watched an M Night movie, I think the easiest movie to sell and be like, go watch this right now is Split.
Easily. I
I think that
Yeah,
like
because
almost
it also had a
yeah
massive public appeal. Like people talked about
yeah.
like, a lot of people went to see that in theaters and
Yeah,
everyone was talking about
and
it.
I think
This movie
yeah,
owns bones.
that movie's so good. Which is like it's like putting at 9 is like crazy, but
I just really don't.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest here. I like all these movies a lot.
no,
I like
that's what I'm
Split.
thinking. It's like I was like getting into like okay, we got rid of
Well,
like
here's
the little ones, and it's like
because
okay,
here's my
now
thing. The movies
everything's
that you really love, like a couple of the movies that you really love, Owen, that we have left. It's like, man, I like Split way more than those movies too.
yeah.
So it's like,
Well, it's tough because it's like it's this point of like I love all these movies around the same, but then there's just like personal kind of things that boost them higher. So it's like
Mhm.
yeah,
it's kind of hard to differentiate like personal boost to like it, good movie kind of thing.
yeah. But okay, but Split at number 9. I don't know. I guess it's fine, right?
I
Yeah.
I
mean,
would have it higher,
I
but
because
I guess it's fine.
yeah, I think we have to put something in the Glass trilogy here. I don't know. I like the whole trilogy, I should say. I just think
uh,
Split is like the least effective for me personally because
I
there's certain moments in Split that just like I really don't vibe with.
really
But there's things I really like. Like I love James McAvoy in it.
I
I
Um,
love
think
Anya
Anya
Taylor-Joy
Taylor
in it.
Joy
Is also
is
yeah,
she's
she's
phenomenal.
great in it
also
too.
very good, and I think a lot of people don't talk about how good. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but the one that plays like his therapist,
Oh, she's
uh,
great.
Eddie Buckley.
Uh,
Like people
yeah,
don't really
I mean she's
her
kind of just like
really
there for
good.
like maybe she has like 10 minutes of screen time.
I don't know. I just to be
Yeah,
fair,
no, I think she's good.
I think her performance is really good, but her character is one of the things that takes me out of the movie.
The
I
therapist when they're
Yeah, I
over
really
there
just don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really vibe with like the
therapist.
whole like therapist like explaining his like situation to us constantly because it's just like I don't know. I think he's an interesting character, but just the way that it's like the way that it comes across in the movie just like doesn't really.
Interesting.
I
Yeah,
cut out. I don't think it would really make a difference for me. I
I
think
think Split is
it's
extremely
more.
interesting because um, it's M Night. M Night really is strong at working with like 3 rooms or like 2 rooms. Like it's so like
Yeah.
minimalistic in the set kind of department. Like we're really in this like this fucking basement for like the whole movie, and
But no, I mean you do leave it a good number of
no,
times
you do
though.
leave it, but I'm talking about like like the central thing is like really in this like
Yeah,
one
I feel
space.
like 80% of the movie like takes place like
Uh,
in those
and
fucking
he does
puddles,
the
right?
same thing in Glass, but it's just like you're in this like one area for a while, but it never kind of has like that like it's not really dull or it's like always kind of engaging and you're just in this one area. I mean,
And I feel like
obviously James McAvoy is
he makes it
brilliant.
like I think he does good at like making he makes it feel like a larger space than it is because of like how much is going on and all of
Yeah,
like
well,
these.
you talk about again, Knock of the Cabin. It's just one like fucking room for the whole movie.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah. I don't
he's
know.
really good at working in those kind of minimal spaces.
I
Um,
like Split, but I'm pretty comfortable putting it down here. So
yeah, I guess
okay,
it is. I mean, it's good.
like
This
guys,
is gonna be a mess.
All right.
all right, let's move on to number 8 then. Do we
Uh,
want to pair Split and Glass back to back here, or is that
no, see, here's the thing, right? Okay, we're gonna have to make some concessions, and that includes me having to make some concessions.
yeah?
Um, hold on, I'm looking at the list. I'm trying to think what I actually really want to be high, and what I am okay with dropping a little bit. I think,
There's
fuck,
really only 2 movies that I care other
on
okay, I already made a big concession with The Sixth Sense since that's in my top 3. There's only 2 other movies that I really care about being high on the list, and everything else I'm pretty comfortable moving around.
I'm gonna be honest. You know what I think I'm gonna nominate?
Okay.
I nominate Knock at the Cabin to be put here.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna nominate no.
Really?
That's
You
crazy.
really
I mean,
really?
I
That's crazy. Movie
Uh,
just came out.
no, I know, and I've seen it twice, and I say no.
yeah.
I
Knock at
don't
the Cabin's
know.
my number 4 out of
Knock at
all his
Kevin's
movies.
3 for me.
Uh,
3? That's crazy.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think Knock at the Cabin's really good.
I like.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on. I like every movie that we have left except for Glass and Lady in the Water more than Knock at the Cabin.
Interesting. Okay, so
But it's like, but that's why me trying to be like making concessions because
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out a way to get Glass and Lady in the Water higher for Owen.
What?
okay, if you have Knock at the Cabin at 3 and I have it at 4 and Doug would
Well,
have it number
where the one that we kind of haven't. Where does the village? I'm assuming the village lies really high for you guys. We haven't
It's
talked
such a
about
good
it at
movie.
all.
It's a
Village
good
is
movie.
one of my 2 favorite M. Night movies.
2?
I have 2 5 stars and The Village is one of them.
Jeez. Yeah,
I like The Village a lot.
because in my kind of bottom area, we're working with Unbreakable Science in the Village, and I think those are like really high for you guys. Like Unbreakable Science and Village, I'm
gonna be
assuming
on.
are like in your
So
top 5
to me,
for both of you.
I really do not want to put Knock at the Cabin above any of those movies.
Interesting.
Okay, well here's the thing. That's what I'm saying. If I have Knock at the Cabin at 4, you have it at 3, Owen, and Doug has it down here, then we could it's probably a fair compromise to say it needs to be in one of the next like
Yeah,
2
I would
or
assume it would be like in the in like not this one, but like maybe the next one.
yeah. I think that's a fair. I think it's a fair compromise, but
Because
something else Knock at the Cabin
yeah,
next.
um,
This is tough. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I ruffled too many feathers. I
No.
think it's totally reasonable to put Knock at the Cabin in the middle, especially because the movie just came out too, and it's like, are
Sure.
we gonna like?
yeah, no,
Because it's
I
like,
think
Knock at the Cabin. You can't give it the same kind of like
you
like
first.
Oh, can you hear me?
No, you're
Yeah.
good. You're good.
Yeah.
You just
Okay.
there's like a lag.
So I just think that like the Knock at the Cabin doesn't have the same amount of like cultural kind of like
yeah.
not cultural, sorry, but like it's like you can't it's like it's like
Yeah, I know.
it
I know
doesn't
what you're
have
saying.
it doesn't have the same like it hasn't withstood the test of time in the same way that Unbreakable has. Does that make sense?
That's fair.
Whereas
Yeah,
Unbreakable has been a great movie for 23 years.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, and it has
See, the
gotten
thing-
better
The
through
thing
those
is for me
years.
is that like most of these movies for me, like this was all a binge for me really. Like I hadn't seen most of these movies, so like these movies are all like obviously
Yeah.
they've been around for longer. But it's
um,
like I've watched all these movies within the span of the last 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So like Knock at the
yeah.
Cabin
So
being
I've seen all these movies before. I've watched most of them again. I really.
But I will say, like, I
Knock at the
think it's
Cabin.
crazy. I think it's crazy putting Glass above Knock at the Cabin.
Okay, that's fair.
Owen
Okay.
really likes
No,
Glass.
but to
Well,
be fair,
I like Knock
I
at the
have
Cabin
Glass-
more than Glass.
yeah, and so do
Okay, are you okay with
so
putting
I
Glass
think we
here?
could put Glass here. I think that's I think
Are you fine with that?
fair-ish.
I mean, because here's the thing: what are you willing to compromise? What are
Yeah,
what
I
are
know.
the
It's
three of us willing to
yeah,
compromise?
I think Glass is
Like,
fine here.
Because we're not
Because
moving,
it's
we're not
also, like-
deviating that much. Because
I
you said Glass is your
I'd rather have After Earth.
I was gonna bring up After Earth.
yeah, because
I
I
have
After Earth's also low on mine. So.
I
I
think
have After Earth a lot higher, but I'm willing to compromise for the greater good of the group because I have to make
Well,
some concessions.
so.
too.
Yeah,
I
I
think
really,
Earth
really
kinda
like
averages
After
here,
Earth, but I like Glass and Knock at the Cabin more. I think.
Okay, but here's the thing. I think After Earth kind of fits neatly into number 8 because if it's around here for Owen, it's pretty low on my ranking and it's like high on your ranking, Doug, then it
Um,
kind of like balances to the middle,
Well,
right?
for me, it kind of comes to this point where I'm looking at my list and we have. I don't think we're not gonna get. I'm not gonna get away with having Signs, Unbreakable, or Village in this spot,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
And the
well, how
next
about we
movie is just After Earth.
Okay, we can
So-
agree. We can agree that the 3 movies for debate here are After Earth, Glass, and Knock at the Cabin. So how about we make that our next 3
Yeah, and
spots?
the lowest one for me is it goes After Earth, Glass, and Knock at the Cabin. So it's After Earth for
Yeah.
me.
And that's the same order for me.
Okay, yeah, we could put After Earth here. I'm not
you know,
angry at it.
Yeah,
I
I hate to do it
think-
because I love that.
I think
It's like
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love all
crazy.
3 of those movies.
Okay, why do you like Glass so much? That's actually kind of blows my mind. I'm not saying that Glass is bad. I like Glass,
yeah.
but I'm just like, man, you
No,
like it.
I
you
really
it
like
so
Glass.
much.
I think it is is kind of M Night working in the same kind of realm of Lady in the Water, and I guess it does it in Unbreakable, but I think he does it really strong here in Glass, where he's telling this kind of fairy tale, this comic book story, and he's really intertwining it into the dialogue and the text. And I just think that the ending is really emotional. I
Absolutely.
love that emotional climax. I
On
think
Glass.
M Night shoots the shit out of this movie, and it's basically like I like Unbreakable, I like Split, I like them together. I think it's like a two. Like I like both of these foods. Them together, it's like this great little smoothie of M Night, and yeah, I I think it's awesome. I've seen it 3 times this week.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, are we willing to do, okay, how about this? As a compromise for the three of us,
Yep.
how does this sound? Okay, how does it sound to go from this point? We do After Earth. We put After Earth in this
Okay.
spot,
Then
and
Glass
then we
and Knock at
put,
the Cabin.
well, no. I have a different
Oh.
compromise. After Earth in this spot, and then Glass, and then Unbreakable.
Oh,
Are
interesting.
you okay with that, Owen?
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that
because you have Unbreakable pretty low, Owen, so that would make sense.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah? Does
yeah.
that
I
make more
mean,
sense for you, Owen? Are you okay with that?
yeah.
Or
I
are you
think,
more okay with that than putting Knock at the Cabin there?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
Okay.
So we're
Unbreakable
going
is
After Earth
9 for
and
me, and Not
Glass.
at the Cabin is 3.
Oh.
So it's like,
Okay. So are we at 9? So at 9 we'll put After Earth,
yeah.
and then at
No,
8
eight.
we'll
8
put,
is After Earth. 7 will be Glass.
what's 9?
9 is
What's
Split.
9?
We just did Split.
Okay.
So
So 8 is
8 is
After
After
Earth.
Earth, 7 is Glass, and 6 is Unbreakable.
That's kind of crazy, but I think that's
Yeah.
but you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I think this is a fair compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
Between the three of our
into
So
the
opinions.
After
we
Earth.
have
Let's talk about After Earth.
Lady in the Water, Old, The Village, Signs left.
Yeah, we'll get
and
there.
Knock at the
But yeah,
Oh, Knock at the
and Knock at the
Cabin.
Cabin.
Okay.
But let's talk about After Earth.
Yeah. You guys
Yeah.
both like After Earth more than I do, significantly, I think.
I love After Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most underrated movie, underappreciated movie of all time, maybe.
I think for me, what works about After Earth is like the emotional core, because like I think the relationship, like the father-son relationship, is super effective for me. I don't like love the movie though. Like I'm not like super into it, but I think like the emotions within it are really strong, and that's like kind of a pretty common theme throughout like all my favorite M Night movies. So that's what I can appreciate about it the most, I would say.
I think After Earth is a really fucking interesting exercise in acting.
Mm.
I think that the performances in this movie are really, really interesting. Whether or not you think they are good or like to your taste is like a different kind of conversation. I think that they are implicitly and like explicitly different than like naturalistic acting.
Yeah.
And it's fucking weird, and I think it's really interesting, and it does work for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I like the performance.
So I'm cool with it kind of in this spot. I like it a lot. It's one of my like 5. My top 5 all have the same rating, but it's like one of my 5 like really like favorites. But I'm cool with putting it at the bottom of, not the bottom, but like in this kind of middle area, more because it is not 100% an M Night movie. It is kind of Will Smith's baby in more ways.
Yeah.
Which is kind of,
we talked about this before, where like there's 2 movies in M Night's
Yeah.
career that he is not like the quote, like the auteur,
Yeah.
like author
that is
of.
The Last
and those are,
Airbender and After Earth. So
Yeah.
while I really love After Earth, it is more like I love After Earth in this kind of more of a Gemini Man kind of thing, where it's like I really like the Will Smith of it all.
yeah,
And it's
Will Smith is great.
yeah. So I really like the Will Smith of it all. I like Jaden Smith. I think the emotional kind of father son thing is really great, and I really drawn to that. And I think there was the M Light that seeks through, like the composition and all that is brilliant. I think it's really good, and this movie is incredibly underrated. But I think I'm okay with it leaning a little lower just because of it. It's like an M Night ranked, so it's like it's not as much M Night as something like Lady in the Water is, like completely M Night. But yeah,
Yeah,
love that.
that makes
movie.
sense.
Yeah, After Earth is really good, and
After-
then we have
Yeah, and now we have Glass and Unbreakable back to back, so I think this is a good time to talk about our thoughts on the trilogy as a whole, if we have any.
they're great.
Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of thoughts. Bruce Willis's
it's
last
weirdly-
great performance.
Yeah, which is really sad because
Yeah.
it has to do with like health stuff.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
and I remember I was reading some reviews after I watched it, because like there's a lot of like half-star reviews of Glass, and I'm like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but a lot of people
That's the
talk
that's
about,
the thing that I was the most shocked by, is like, why is this movie so, like, I could see people thinking it's average, but I'm like really shocked that people hate it.
It,
The ending is really weird, especially for like something that's trying to appeal to like a wide audience. The
Mhm.
ending is really, really weird.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think the ending is like, I,
I love
I
the
don't
ending.
think the ending is like bad. I don't think it's like a bad ending, but it's like I understand how a normal people could watch it and be like, "What the fuck,"
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
Yeah, it
yeah.
wasn't like anticlimactic to me though, because I think that that's like
Oh
that
no, I
seems like a
think
lot of
that,
people
that, that
like it
it's
seems like
like
a lot of people's complaint, right? Is that like this movie because when you think about it, the movie only came out a couple years ago, right? So we're already like when this movie comes out, we're already like in the midst of like peak Marvel
it's like
movie
4 years
kind
ago.
of yeah, exactly. Like we're
Yeah,
like Marvel has been well known, like everybody's obsessed with Marvel at this point,
Yeah.
and it's like they in the movie they mention that they're going to go to like this building and have this like
Yeah.
gigantic
yeah, and
battle
have this
and then
big
it
fight.
doesn't happen and so
Yeah.
like you imagine like all these Marvel fans have to be like, oh, this sucks because I thought there was going to be this massive thing and then it just doesn't, it just all takes
Yeah.
place in a parking lot and it's like, but that's
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it
no.
works for me because I like it on the
What's
small
so it's
scale.
what talked about this earlier about how it's so grounded and it's not like it's on you're on like the ground, but everything that you're talking about and everything you're experiencing is like this supernatural kind of thing.
I
Um,
listened to a conversation yesterday on like the Big Picture Show,
mhm.
Hmm.
which is another movie
Yep.
podcast, and they were talking about like Emmett career as a whole, and they were talking about Glass. And when they talked about the ending, they somebody brought up how like oh it kind of has like a weird third act, and but somebody else said how like it doesn't really have a third act. It just kind of like has like a second act that ends, and I'm like that's a interesting way to think about it or like kind of
Yeah.
analyze
Yeah.
it because like it really doesn't feel like it has a third act in the
It,
movie
it really is
in
not
an
like
interesting
it
way.
is structured in a way of like I guess there's no really like it's more of like there's no like middle. I feel like
Sure.
because it's like we're
Yeah.
built. It's just like a build up, and then something happens.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
a. There's not like this kind of. Um, no, I think it's really interesting, and I think it's an interesting kind of piece in this whole superhero cape shit kind of thing because
Yeah.
um the kind of universal praise that these movies get and like for Unbreakable to come out 2000 and then you make Split and then you make this like because Split is like you don't really know it's a superhero movie, a superhero it's not a superhero movie but it's like you don't know what's attached to that kind of stuff until like the
Yeah.
end, but this Glass is like marketed as like this big team up kind of movie. And
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
fascinating in the world of Avengers and Justice League to have this kind of M Night movie that is weirdly structured and kind of only is in this like building for most of the movie. And it's kind
Yeah.
of yeah, it's we and the dialogue
I
is
think
like
It's
what
a
you're I think
it's a
weird
what
and
Owen is
bizarre
awkward.
movie.
saying I think what Owen is saying captures exactly why Glass is so high on my list. Like that's like
Yeah,
when you
I
were
think it's
asking why
fascinating.
we have it so high, I'm like I like Glass because Glass to me just like feels so incredibly like refreshing in a world of superhero movies where it like gives me like because I only watched it recently of course and it's like
Yeah,
it gives me like a nostalgia for when I watched superhero movies and they were like on a small scale like pre-Marvel
yeah,
superhero movies when it's
it
like
is.
that's what I like about all my favorite superhero movies before Marvel where it's like
Yeah,
you know like Spider-Man 2 or whatever
yeah.
it's like takes place within just like
It
this
feels like
city and
yeah, it
it's
feels
not
like
like the
what
whole
Raimi
world.
making
Yeah,
superhero movies. People like Raimi
yeah,
making superhero movies again, like full
yeah,
control. Have it's like no studio control here. It is M Night making the movie he wants to make,
yeah,
and it's just really
exactly.
not what you get in that genre. And I think it'll be a movie that people hopefully look back on more fondly of compared to
Yeah.
like stuff like we're getting Thor Love and Thunder and things like that. Like I just think it's really interesting that
Yeah.
Glass kind of appears in this
Yeah.
middle of all of this.
I don't want to come across as a Glass hater,
Yeah,
because I think that Glass is better than like most superhero movies. I think it's like in like the top half of
I
all
think
superhero
I
movies
think
ever
it's better
made.
than any
Like
Marvel movie for the past like any of this
probably,
like any
yeah, it's probably
MCU
better than
project.
yeah,
Yeah, there's only one
probably
Marvel movie I have on Letterboxd with a higher rating than Glass, so I could like almost be on board with that.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think so.
because
I probably agree. I don't know.
yeah,
But it's
Interesting.
just I don't know. I don't know. It's I don't even. It's not. It's really. It's not that I dislike it. It's just that I don't. I don't know. I just don't love it. And I'm like thinking about it because like when you're like, oh, I think it's like M Night's best shot movie or like one of
well,
his
yeah,
best shot
I think
movies,
it
and I'm just
is.
like,
Yeah,
wow, really?
I do think it is. I think Glass is like really
for
just
me, it's
like a pleasure to look at like the whole entire
yeah,
time. Like
Glass
I
is
really
beautiful.
yeah.
I think it's up there with like Old. I think Lady in the Water shot really well. Knock at the Cabin,
Okay, because to me it's like
Split.
Old is his best shot movie to me, and I don't think it's close.
Which movie?
Old,
Oh, okay.
but
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'd be cool with saying Old is better. Like it's like up there. It's just like these are like
sure.
amazingly shot movies, and I really like how Glass is shot. um,
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 yeah,
yeah, Glass is very good.
Glass just makes me
So
emotional too. That's the other thing.
yeah,
I'm like,
oh
Owen
yeah,
kind of said
I
it.
think
Like,
that
I
ending is so
Glass
good.
is like, yeah, a lot of people think it's like, like cheesy, I guess, and I'm like, I don't know, this is like cute. I'm like, this is like kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just works for me. It made me cry
Well,
at the end.
it's
Like,
also it's one of it's a movie that talks like the whole themes of the movie are kind of the themes that M Night has been talking about his whole career, and is one of
yeah,
those movies that kind
yeah,
of like everything they're saying is kind of just M Night in a whole. Like the whole movie is about belief and kind of in this kind of corruption is telling you that what you believe is not like wrong, like right, and they're trying to get you to do something, be who you aren't, and it's kind of an interesting kind of look on M Night's career. It's like he comes out and he's really strong and he's really like in his belief kind of thing, and then they come and they say, actually, you're wrong, that and they try to kind of hose him down there. And then he kind of has this big glasses, this big jolt of like, you know what? I'm going to be unequivocally me. I'm gonna be me, and I'm gonna make my movies, and then they kill him. But but I think it's like it's a really
yeah.
interesting. I think it's really interesting, kind of to compare Glass to his career, and there's a lot he's saying here, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
yeah,
Glass is really good. I think maybe Glass is like the biggest kind of like out of because M Night has like these eras. I think there's like three really clear M Night eras where
Mhm.
it's like The Sixth Sense to through The Village or Lady in the Water you can include in there, and then it's like The Happening through After Earth,
I would
or that you could
include
include
Lady in the Water in
Lady.
the Happening era.
Yeah. And then you have that era. And then you have kind of like this more modern era, which is The Village through now, which is when he came back, started self financing his
The Visit.
movies. And he's just like, I'm just going to kind of make movies I want to make, you
Yeah,
know? He's
yeah,
like not really concerned about it,
yeah,
like anything.
100%.
yeah.
Um,
Well, because I
Okay,
think,
we have Unbreakable at 6 too, by the way, which we should also talk about
oh
with
yeah,
Glass. 'Cause
Unbreakable is really good. I think I'm going to say something crazy. I think Unbreakable is my favorite M Night ending. I think the last like
the
five
ending
ten
is
minutes,
awesome. The
the
ending is
last five to
so
yeah.
ten
cool.
minutes of Unbreakable is fucking
I
amazing.
love the Unbreakable ending. I think it's not. It's one of my like. It's like I love it. It's just not. I think I really love when M Night leaves me emotional.
Yeah. Does Unbreakable not make you emotional?
It doesn't. Well, Unbreakable does.
Interesting.
I just don't think the ending does necessarily.
Sure.
It's like an
Okay.
ending where it's like,
Okay.
oh, we find out like he was on the train and he's the reason the train happened. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna. It's not something that really makes me cry. It's just like, oh, it's really interesting and cool. I think Knock at the
Yeah, I
Cabin
guess it's
and
like
Old and Lady in the Water and Glass have like these
Yeah.
really emotional endings, and that's kind of where I'm
yeah,
drawn to more. I think even Split
Yeah.
has
I
a
just think
really
I think
emotional ending
Unbreakable is emotional like throughout
throughout. Yeah, yeah,
conceptually because I think the like what it's presenting is just like the sweetest thing in the world where it's just like the idea of like being a kid and like thinking that your dad is like a superhero because he's just like
yeah,
you only can see him in a positive light. Like I think that is just like
yeah,
such a sweet
yeah.
concept where I'm like this movie
Um,
like thinking about Unbreakable makes me cry because like just this like
yeah.
relationship is so like I don't know, it's just a really touching thing to like I like just like it's one of those things where it's like when you like think of a concept and you're like or you find a movie that talks about a concept and you're like I'm surprised that no other like I've never seen another movie that talks about this thing
Yeah.
and it's like that's how I feel with Unbreakable when I watch it. I'm like I think that there's like something there about like like seeing your dad as like this kind of like growing
Oh,
up and seeing your parents as like this like superhero figure that like I've never seen anywhere else and I just find that so interesting.
I was watching Unbreakable. I was rewatching Unbreakable for this podcast, and
Mhm.
I kind of got. You're gonna call me crazy. I kind of got it hit me where I was like, this is like an undeniable kind of genre film in the same way as like The Matrix is, where I'm like, man, if people watch this and they don't like it, it's like they just need to watch it again, you know? Just
yeah.
because I'm
No, I
like
think Unbreakable is fantastic.
the execution of the concept is just like it's just like they couldn't I don't like you can't execute it better. You know what I mean? It's that's
Yeah,
just
absolutely. And it
I
feels
think
like almost they would complain about the same stuff that people in Glass complain about, where it's like a lot of Unbreakable is kind of just like not like really action filled, you know what I mean? Where it's like
yeah,
a lot of it is just kind of like
it is the anti
relationships.
Marvel movie before Marvel even kind of
Yeah.
happened.
yeah, it's about a guy with like superhuman strength, and how do they show that? It's like, oh yeah, he bench presses, you know?
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
bench touches like not like a crazy amount. Like it's not like he's
Yeah,
bench
not
pressing
like
like
a
a
Yeah.
crazy
house or something.
amount.
But I think it goes again when I was talking about the belief thing. Unbreakable is about a movie not only for Bruce Willis's with David Dunn believing in himself, but it's about a kid believing in his dad. Um, and I
Yeah,
think again, like this is like the theme that kind of is throughout M Night's career and faith and belief. And I think Unbreakable is a really strong, like brilliant look at that in like this superhero movie. Because
Yeah.
again, he
yeah.
uses things like comic books and fairy tales to tell really powerful and compelling stories.
Yeah.
And another really good child performance in Unbreakable.
Yep.
Yeah. That's true.
With
Also,
Spencer Treat Clark, who like
how do
is
we feel
not in
about
a
the
lot of
twist on
stuff,
Unbreakable?
What
huh?
do you say?
The twist on Unbreakable, like, because I feel like I think that's one of the better twists for me.
It's great.
Yeah,
It's really good.
I
That like him being on the train.
we didn't even talk
Yeah.
about it, but the I think the glass twist is really good as well.
Oh, where his dad was on the train too. You
Yeah,
mean that?
and yeah,
Mm.
it's like
There's three twists in Glass.
yeah,
Yeah.
glass is crazy. Like it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. They're just
oh,
throwing them all
your
at
dad's on
you.
the train, and then he's like, oh, actually, there's like this secret society.
That's like killing them,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
like,
and then there's like another twist after that where it's like, oh, actually, Mr. Glass like was
yeah.
actually all of them leaked the footage.
No, that ending
Like
is
I was watching
insane.
the, yeah,
Yeah, that's
Because it's like
wild.
you go from this really emotional, like this really, it's a really emotional ending where it's like this we kind of jump back to glass, but it's like the three main characters kind of battling out, but it's very emotional and they're dying almost, like literally actually. They're dying, and then you just get these twists kind of thrown at you, and they're all like they're emotional twists. I think the glass is just kind of insane, and it's an insane leap for M Night to kind of just do this movie.
yeah,
And I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, again on Unbreakable, I think the twist is really fun, and
Yeah.
it's another one where it's like M Night twist. You don't, I guess, like maybe you can see the visit or like the village or something, but I think Unbreakable is something like you don't see coming at all.
Yeah.
no,
Like
I
you
think
really
the
have to be
twist
looking for it.
Like
You
that
need to be told.
that twist is
Yeah.
crazy.
the twist in Unbreakable I think is his like most effective twist in any of his movies, where it's like even like I've seen the movie before, even rewatching it, the
Yeah.
twist made
Oh,
me like
it's like
get like
it's
whiplash.
so
I was like,
good.
oh, what the fuck,
And I
you know?
we didn't mention this was Split, but I think the ending of Split is like it's like almost this like fist pumping kind of moment, and it's so funny because you have all these Marvel movies with these dumb post credit scenes that like you're like, geez, this again. But I think the one that kind of happens like it's not even a post credit scene. It's really just at the end of Split. But it's like it's so like cool the way that they kind of made that movie not saying anything. It's like, oh, this is a new M Night movie, and then it's like freaking Bruce Willis at the end. The movie's it's so
Yeah.
cool.
That's also crazy. I think
I
we should talk about our top five because this is
I
like
okay, I have a movie that I think, and Kevin, you need to not be angry at me for what I'm about to say.
no, it's fine. No, okay, okay. Here's what I think we should. I'm not going to be angry regardless, but I think we should lay out the top five and really like see where they all rank for us.
I
Okay.
think so what I was gonna say is like I think at number 5, the three of us should put The Village.
Okay.
I think that's what I was gonna
Okay,
say.
but where? Okay, because that's out of the remaining five, that's the lowest for Owen, correct?
No,
Yes.
Oh,
Science is
oh,
Signs at
Signs
10.
is the lowest. Okay.
um
But where's the village for you, Doug?
The Village is
Out of these
number
five?
out of these 5, The Village would be number 3 for me.
Okay. Because I'm just wondering if there's anything that we all have like towards the bottom half of these. You know
So
what I
here's like
mean?
Kevin,
I
you want
don't
to put
think so.
old here.
No, I mean,
You want to put
you
old
guys want
here,
to put old at
but
the top, so I'm not going to put it here. Like, obviously, old's the lowest for me, but it's like, but I know
Yeah,
that you also like
so
Doug, like you
okay,
also
it's
have Lady
almost
in the
like
Water pretty
I think
low,
me and
and that's
Doug
what I'm
have
oh no,
saying.
flipped.
yeah,
I
Knock
think
at the
me and
Cabin
Doug
is
have
sorry.
flipped. like rankings
Yeah,
here.
Lady in the Water is lowest for me out of the remaining ones, but that's what I was going to say. I think that we should put The Village at 5 and then Lady in the Water at 4.
Interesting.
That'd
Because
be
then
cool.
that
If
I'd be
then
cool
that
with
means
that.
we
you two
put,
are okay with that.
yeah. I
Yeah,
And then we need to rank, and then in some
and then
order
it's
we have to
old, knock at
put
the cabin,
Signs,
signs.
Knock at the Cabin, and Old in some order.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
So, okay.
Somehow it's gonna end up being Knock at the Cabin at number one, even
No,
though
it's not.
so strange.
I think it. I think it.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
doesn't. It's like
Here,
a.
yeah.
It's like
This is such an impossible
crowning
rank because
a
of
winner is kind of impossible here. Like it's like
yeah,
yeah.
but okay, but with what I just said, what this is
Village
layout
and
work
Lady
for
in
you
the
guys
Water.
with the Village at 5 and then Lady in the Water at 4, and then those three at some order in the top 3.
I feel like Knock at the Cabin makes the most sense here because we all have it in the like middle
Well,
of
yeah,
the,
that's what I'm. It's like
because it's like
Okay.
because I have it at
because
I
you
have it at
have
4 and you have it at 3 and Doug has it significantly lower, so it's not because I think we should
yeah.
limit the movies that we have in our top 2 at least to like the very top, you know what I
So
mean?
when we
If we
go,
put Knock at the Cabin here, I'm fine with that. I'm
so
okay with that.
Village and then Knock at the Cabin,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I could be happy with that. Doug, where would you put you said you put it at 3?
Yeah, it's my third favorite M Night.
Okay.
But I'm willing to make that concession. If
It's
we
just
want to
'cause-
put
no,
The
it's-
Village at 5, Knock at the Cabin at 4, and then Lady in the Water is going to be number 3.
Yeah, and then we pick between Signs and Old for the top 2 is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just okay. The thing is, it's like I don't care that you guys want Old so
This is
high. I just feel like
crazy.
the fact that we're
This is
making so many
crazy.
concessions and Old is literally
Wait,
at the
wait.
bottom of my list and it's gonna make like the top 2 is like crazy to me. You know what I mean? Because it's like I don't care
Well, but
about
here's the
putting
thing.
Old higher on the
I think
list.
I think Old is number 2 for me and Owen.
Well, I think it is. I think the thing is, I think Signs is really high for Doug and Kevin, and I think Old
my
is
number
really
one.
high. Yeah, and I think Old is really high for me and Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes to a thing where like,
Doug, is
yeah.
Signs your number one?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Because then I think it would make more sense to do Old at 2 and then Signs at number 1. Because if both of us
Yeah.
have the same number 1, then that definitely
I think
kind of outweighs the
is-
debate that we're having about all these other movies, right?
Okay, so are you saying
I'm
our-
saying
our
the
official-
order should be Knock at the
our-
Cabin number 5, Lady in the
Yeah.
Water number 4, The Village number 3, Old number 2,
Village?
Signs number 1.
flip
the
flip,
Village and Knock.
Oh no, The Village and
Knock
Lady in
at-
the Water.
it's-
No, The Village and
no,
Lady in the
no,
Water.
The Village,
Village,
at 5, Knock at the
Knock,
Cabin 4,
Water,
Lady in the Water 3.
Old.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I thought we
that's
agreed
what
to
we
put Knock at the
proposed.
Cabin here at 5.
I thought no, it was
well,
Village and then Knock.
Yeah,
Okay.
So you're saying that our official looks like a movie ranking of M Night movies.
No, we'll get to that. We'll get to that at the end. We need to talk about the top 5.
Oh,
So The Village,
Roger.
then Knock at the Cabin, then Lady in the Water, then Old, and then Signs at number 1, right?
Okay, Owen, push back and argue with us.
push back. I felt good with
Yeah.
that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's like
Are you okay with putting Signs at number 1, Owen? I know you do not love this movie.
like it's not really like I'm a big like pushbacker on Signs. It's just not a personal favorite.
yeah.
Like I'm cool with it at 1.
I feel like we should agree on
tried-
something that we all like, but I don't know. That's
But
the
I don't
thing.
think
Like,
that
well, here's
I don't
the
think that
thing.
one exists.
There
I don't think that
isn't
movie
one.
exists. I don't think that movie
yeah,
exists.
no,
Yeah.
it doesn't. You're right. It's just like,
'Cause it's
yeah,
like-
I feel bad that Owen can't push back, but at the same time, it's like 2 of the movies in our top 3 would be at the bottom of my list. So
Yeah,
it's like,
no, I
kinda
feel
don't-
like
kinda don't feel
I feel
bad
like
because it's like, I don't
one
like those
enough in the
movies.
middle, or like the kind of like near the top, where it's like the number 1 is like sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like because like I think we're putting Lady in the Water considerably higher
Yeah.
than what me and
Yeah.
Kevin would
I
put if
think
it was
I-
just me and Kevin.
That's why I
ranking.
think we should. That's why I think we should keep Old at number 2 and drop Lady in the Water from number 3. Because I think putting Lady in the Water at 3 is kind of absurd when me and Doug both have it that low. Like I think Lady in the Water at 4 and putting Knock at the Cabin above it makes more sense.
But
Or The Village above it. Like either one.
It's Owen's favorite.
No,
Owen's number 1.
It's like it's tough because
Yeah.
it's like
I get that it's Owen's favorite. I just think we're all more in agreement on either like a Knock at the Cabin or The Village, where it's like those two like are 2 movies that we all have at
Yeah.
least like somewhat higher
Well,
on our
Village is
list,
7
right?
for me.
Yeah, well, seven's in the top half,
Yeah.
or like pretty much the top
It's
half.
I wish I could like see it.
I don't know. I think we can agree
Where?
signs and old are our top two. I think we need
Yeah,
to
and then it's
figure out
what are like the confusing middle
the other
ones?
three are Lady in
Like
the Water, Knock at the Cabin, and The Village.
I'm gonna be honest. I would have the village higher,
Yeah,
but
that's
I
what I'm saying. Like
think
we would both have it
but
higher, and it's
but
not like
the
it's a
Village
low
is
on
just
Owen to get
I'm
in.
okay with this though. I'm okay with this ranking a little bit.
Okay.
I think that
yeah, I'm good with this
like
area too.
uh, listen, because I'm for me it's a win because at least I'm getting signs and old in the top two spots because that's like how I would probably actually do it.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with having Lady in the Water this high because even though I don't think it's a great movie, I understand that it is like an important artifact in M Night's canon, and I think that it is I don't know,
Okay.
like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
I
know.
see what you're saying. Okay, so we have the top five. We have, at least for right now, a rough list that we will go over again at the end of the episode. But let's talk about these five movies specifically then, and we'll start with The Village at number five then, because The Village is one of my two five stars. So I
Yeah,
really like The
Yeah,
Village.
The Village is really good. No one's
I
gonna argue with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, Village is great.
I think
That's really the
that
thing though. It's like all these movies are really good, so it's like it's kind of
Yeah.
like this. The list is hard. Like even making my own personal list is hard, and not let alone like making this jointed like mutant list.
yeah, yeah, of course. I don't know. I just
I would say this
there's
is fun
just
though.
no.
This is fun.
This is good. I think I'm comfortable with this order. I just want to. I feel like we should talk about all of these movies
Yeah,
in at least a little bit of detail.
of course.
But
Yes,
yeah,
The Village.
The Village works for me because it is like you guys know that I love a good romance, and The Village is like such a beautiful movie. Like it's like I'm just so moved by the relationship. I just think it's like I don't know. I not that I think M Night is a like romantic in the sense of like his worldview and like the way he like makes his movies like very hopeful, but like to see like a movie where it's like, oh no, he's like actually just a romantic, like this is just actually like romantic. I was like, this is so cute. Like it works for me in every single way. I'm like, there's a number of lines in that movie that I'm like, this is like some of the best dialogue I've ever heard. Like it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
well, the I think that so the scene where the Joaquin Phoenix character like basically confesses his love to the Bryce Dallas Howard character on the
Perfect.
porch where
Like
yeah, where Bryce
perfect.
Dallas Howard is basically like, "Why won't you dance with me?" And he's like, "Why won't you shut the fuck up?" And he's like, "And I will dance with you on our wedding day, bitch." You
Yeah.
know, and I'm like, "Man, that's
That
amazing."
scene literally like I watched that and I was like, this is better than 99% of the romances I've ever seen, and
No, yeah, I was
it's
literally
set in this movie.
I
Like,
I watched that scene and I was thinking like, man, bro, Pride and Prejudice fucking like found in a ditch, bro. Like,
Yeah,
no, literally, I think like on the subject of twists too, like the village twist is so interesting in
yeah.
my
I thought it
opinion.
was really stupid when I first saw it,
Really?
like a long time ago.
No, okay.
That's why. But I think I like it a lot rewatching it
Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
because it's like I think it's a little like disingenuous to even call it a twist because
Mm.
it's like the movie is really not hiding the fact
Well,
that
yeah. So the village is like kind of the one of the twists where it's like it's immediately where you go to. It is like if you're like, oh, okay, the village, we're watching the village. What could be the M Night twist here? That is the like kind of immediate one that's kind of in the back of your head. We talked about kind of how
and
Unbreakable kind of comes out of nowhere. The village is kind of the more obvious twist, but I really still enjoy it.
there's well rewatching it, right? I was like really paying attention, and obviously I knew what the twist was and
Yeah.
everything. And I was like, the costuming is interesting because I was immediately hit with. There was a scene where I was like just looking at the Walking Phoenix's character's jeans, and I was like, those look like modern jeans.
Yeah.
Like those look like
Yeah.
pants that you would buy at the store today. And I think that was call me crazy. I think that was intentional costuming where they
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
them in
100%.
like modern clothes that are meant to look like older, you know, but it's like a costume though, you know. They didn't put them in like period accurate clothes because they wouldn't have period accurate clothes. They would have modern clothes. And I was like, that's real. Like he would have modern like Levi jeans or whatever the fuck he was wearing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's an interesting. I think that was intentional, and I'm like, that's really interesting because it's like he's not trying to lie to the audience, you know. He's just trying to like he's just like withholding
Yeah,
information,
yeah.
which
It's
he
not
doesn't
it's not
need,
a
you
lie.
know.
It's just not telling. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, the village is great. It's also like maybe the best ensemble cast that
Oh
M Night's
yeah, I mean
working
it's
with
like
here.
stacked. There's
the
like
cast is
gigantic
absurd.
names in it that don't even get
Yeah.
screen time.
Jesse Eisenberg does
Jesse
has like
Eisenberg's in like two scenes, and he doesn't even talk in one of them.
he said yeah he says like 3 words.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's insane, and it's also it's. I think it's really interesting because it's his.
Brendan Gleeson also has like one line in the movie.
yeah,
Yeah, it is M Night. It's the beginning of the critic end of M Night here.
Yeah,
Is the
because this is
village is like the one of the first M Night movies that is initially rejected. Um,
yeah, because it's like this movie has like a really big budget too. This movie had like a $70 million
yeah,
budget at the time, which adjusted for inflation is like over $100 million.
yeah.
Like
So
yeah,
for like because
this is a blockbuster kind of deal.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and the critics like it's gone on to have more love in the past kind of decade, but initially it was not so like favored.
yeah,
And then that continued later in his next group of
yeah.
movies.
And I think there's some valid criticism of the village. Like I think that there's some like what's the term uh disability as like a
Oh yeah,
like romanticizing disability, like
yeah,
making like
yeah,
like blindness, like she's blind but her blindness is a superpower. Like I can understand how people think that is kind of problematic. And it's like the Adrian Brody character.
yeah,
I understand why some people would be really uncomfortable with that performance, but for me, I just watched the movie and I'm like, I don't know, it all works, you know? It's
yeah.
just I just like
No, the Adrian
I
Brody
just
thing
think
is
it
definitely the
works.
thing where like I've seen that criticism and I'm like that definitely makes the most sense
yeah,
because like they make him out to be, the villain in the movie, like or not technically, but you know what I mean. Like what he does is like this
yeah,
the worst thing that happens to someone in the movie. um
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. That I could see that criticism for sure. There's just so much about the village that I connect with that I'm like it's so
Yeah.
hard to like.
So when she gets over into like the road, right, and that security guard finds her, and then and like man, that whole section when the security guard goes back to get the medicine, and like when we see like M Night in the reflection being like,
Yeah,
hey man, just keep your head low, this is a pretty easy gig or whatever he says.
yeah,
And the guy like is like clearly trying to like sneak medicine to go give to her, and then he goes back and like gives her the medicine, and like the ladder gets her the ladder to go back over the wall, and like you see like the watch swinging from like the rear view mirror. I literally fucking cried. I was like, this is so beautiful.
yeah,
This is like about like how hopeful humanity is,
yeah.
and how like beautiful humans are. And I was like, oh my god, this is a
yeah.
fucking phenomenal piece of art. Like,
Yeah, I feel that way. Yeah, I feel that way about a number of his movies on it. Like all the movies at the top of my list definitely do that to me. I'm like he does make a lot of movies that are like that like really like capture like the like humanity in like a positive light. Which is just something I like to, that's what I was saying before. I'm like a lot of his movies are like very hopeful, like they're like
yeah,
sweet in that way. Do
I
we
don't
want
know
to talk
for
about Knock at the Cabin?
well, that's what I was
Because
gonna say. This is a good
that's
transition to
yeah,
Knock at the Cabin, because this is a big thing that he changed in the book. None of us have read the book, right?
No, but I've
But
looked up obviously.
so part of what he wasn't supposed to direct it direct this adaptation of the book initially, because he was supposed to just be a producer for an adaptation of Cabin at the End of the World, like adaptation in as a movie, because he really loved the concept. But he's very vocal about how he does not like the ending in the book, because because I think part of it is like the book isn't very hopeful.
It's this
Like
very
the
cynical
ending of the
ending.
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Like the ending of the book isn't like this like humanity prevails or like people are good. It's not anything like that. It's like it's very much like, it's like cynical.
yeah,
And he's very vocal about how like he doesn't like he says, like, I think what he said is like he couldn't what he said specifically was like he could not direct this movie if the story ends like this.
yeah. And I think
Um
like that concept of hope, like especially like when it applies to this, and specifically because this is like a new movie coming out in the modern day, it's like the idea ideas that like are being thrown around in movies recently about like, the planet is doomed and like blah blah blah. It's like and I'm not saying that there's not movies that have like a less hopeful ending that I don't like. Like there's definitely still examples that I like, but I think you need to like have someone who makes a movie that reminds you that it's like, like there's still like we could still do
Yeah.
something about this. You know what I mean? Like if every movie is just like, oh yeah, the planet's fucked and like you're all gonna die, and there's just no saving it, then nobody's gonna try. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nobody's gonna have any faith in thinking that like there's something we could do. Whereas like I said, like his movies are very hopeful, and he's like telling you like no, like like you should be
Yeah.
hopeful because like we should try. And that definitely is like what makes this movie so emotional for me, because it's like I mean really like with all the like obviously the fact that there's such good acting in the movie helps, but it's like all these characters that are just very humanized, like and it is kind of just like this idea of like they're all obviously not not the ones who are held hostage, but the ones who are there holding them hostage are all like they're actually trying to save the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's like a hope, you know what I mean? It's like people are coming together to like actually like do something.
And
um
it's funny because this movie is an adaptation, obviously, so it's not like an M Night original concept.
Mhm.
But a lot of people are already identifying that this is like kind of like prime M Night, like has like especially like M Night now in like this modern is like his modern era, like prime, like everything he makes movies about, how it's kind
yeah.
of like this big like kind of Christian faith-based fable. And
Mhm.
it's also, which so many of his movies are about, and it's also has like this really like it's like child-centric with a great child performance. And it has like this really tender kind of like people like just like explicitly talking about their feelings like out loud, like how people like don't do in real life, and all of
Yeah.
this stuff. And it's like, man, this is what everything that M Night
It's
like
kind
just
of
does.
it's the ultimate kind of M Night, collage
Yeah.
of things. And I think the fact that this is the first M Night movie that is adapted from a book, and the fact that he said, "Hey, I really like this concept, and this is something I can work in, but if I'm gonna make a movie, it's going to be an M Night movie." So they changed the title of the thing because it's like he wanted to see it as a separate kind of piece of art. And I think
Yeah.
the fact that he changed it and made it an M Night movie is really
Yeah.
fascinating, and I think it works well because you want to see M Night's voice come through. You don't want to go back to the Last Airbender kind of stuff. You want to see M Night voice his actual feelings. You don't want to see him direct, sit there and just point the camera and do his little camera thing. You want to see him seek through the image, and I think he really
Yeah.
comes through, even though if he's not the original like creator of the idea.
And so in the interview, one of the interviews I listened to, he said that he didn't, the first time he was like presented the story, right, the first time he read it, he read a script, like a one-to-one like
Okay.
screenplay adaptation of the book before he actually read the book. And that
Yeah.
was his first time reading it. And he said like that he like fell in love with the story, but he was like, I can't, I can't, he fell in love with the concept, but he's like, I really like, it's like there's a lot of things I like don't really
Agree
feel
with or
good, yeah, agree with in the script. And is like, I can't, direct this or whatever. So he was gonna like be a producer for that film. And then that project just kind of like fell through.
yeah.
And then he was presented with the script again, and he
Yeah.
was basically told like, hey, like if you want to direct this, like you could
Yeah.
rewrite the screenplay
Yeah.
and kind of like do whatever you want if like you're still interested in this
Yeah,
concept.
I think because I think the way I kind of like I was reading all kind of stuff like that, it was kind of like a thing where he was like, I read it, he read it, and he was like, yeah, I'd love to do this, but I don't, I'd change a lot of shit. And they were like, no, we
Yeah.
kind of we want to keep it, stick to the book. And then it was like, all right, no one's gonna direct this bitch. Like, if you want to take it and change whatever, you can do it. It was like, oh, I guess no, it's not gonna happen unless you do it your way. So we want to make the movie, so come and
Yeah.
make the movie. And I'm happy that he
Yeah.
made the movie. I think to kind of go more into performances. I think um, Ben Aldridge. I think Jonathan Groff. I think David Batista.
Dave Batista,
Yeah, I know.
bro.
I mean,
Is Dave
Absolutely.
Batista like granted it's February, right?
yeah.
But in 2023 is he the best performance of the year so far? He is
I like
fucking
Yeah.
I like
superstar in
so
this
I like
movie.
Jonathan Groff's performance in the same movie more, but I do I do like recognize that Dave Bautista blew this out of the water, and I think it's time to like kind of put to bed the wrestler turned actor thing. I think it's just like he is a phenomenal actor.
Yeah, very
Um,
talented actor.
and yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to see him, win something for that. But I think M Night is really and I think it's so funny when people talk about bad acting in M Night movies because it is so obvious that M Night has the ability to get performances out of actors, and it might be a performance that is not conventional or a performance that you don't like, but it is a performance nonetheless, and it is a strong one. And it goes
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
it maybe not goes in a direction you like, but he gets performances out of people. And I think it's like that movie is really like you have this great visual language that M Night is portraying. It's really emotional, but at the core of it, it is just in this cabin with these performances, and I think it's a joy to watch.
Yeah. It is, at least for me, like looking at my list, I'm like, this is easily the best performance of the year so far for me. I don't even think
Yeah,
there's a chance
we've
for
only
me.
like there's not been that
Yeah.
many like
Yeah.
I
good
mean, granted,
movies
I've
that
seen
have.
like 5 movies that came out this
Yeah.
year, so
Yeah,
I've
it's
seen
between
12 movies and I could only think of like two performances that even like would be
this
anywhere
is the
like
only
near
movie
yeah,
that
it.
it's
I've
like
seen
this or
so
like
far
maybe
this
Mia
year
Goth in
that
Infinity Pool or
yeah,
something. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean obviously like it's freaking January, so like
Yeah.
there's loads to
Well,
go. But this is like
February
the
now,
only
but
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that. But I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
this is like masterclass type stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's
it
just
is
like so
weird.
like
it's really
it's
good.
just so like heartfelt too, you know what I mean? Like
Oh
he's just
yeah,
such a like his character and like the way he portrays it is just so like
yeah,
I don't know,
because
like you just connect with him so much, I feel
you
like.
kind of mentioned it before how these all these people that are at this cabin they want to save the world, but you really
Yeah.
feel that in Dave Batista that you get this really nice opening moment with him and with Wen and it's a
Mhm.
really heartfelt moment. You have all these you just know you feel that he cares. He's like this
Yeah.
big teddy bear that just like wants to save the world.
Yeah,
Um,
especially because I think there's something interesting about how he's perceived by Wen's fathers versus like who he
yeah,
actually ends up being
yeah,
as a person because I think there's a lot like that's why I'm like and this is like really mostly my frustration with how some people are reacting to Knock at the Cabin where it's like when people talk about like explanatory dialogue and they're like the movie is holding the audience's hand kind of thing and they're like oh like this movie is just like spelling out what it's about to
yeah,
you, you know what I mean? I'm like there's a very clear difference between like the like you know like hand holding like explanatory kind of thing that you might see in another movie where that is all you can get out of it versus something like Knock at the Cabin, where it's like a lot of these people being like, this is just a movie that is about this. Like, this is a movie about the world ending and like, you know, like people have to save it or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, sure, that's the main idea. But like, there's so much more to like think about in the movie that like who cares if that's what's being explained to you because it's not there's so much more that like I personally thought was even more interesting about the movie that is never really explained to you. So I'm like,
Yeah,
what's the point of getting
yeah.
mad about this when there's
So
all this other? Because it's like that's what I'm saying about Dave Batista's character, where it's like you have these two people who like who see him very clearly, like who take their experiences as you know gay men who have been discriminated against and just immediately jump to like this idea of like him being like oh like he just like is on like all these people are just on the wrong side of the internet and they're like they've fallen down like this
yeah,
far right
this,
pipeline
yeah,
and it turns out that they're nothing like that and I
yeah.
think there's so much like there's so many interesting conversations to be had about the dynamic between like these
Hmm.
people and like who they actually are versus like what they're perceived as and like this kind of you know like
Yeah,
collective effort that people are making because I like when movies can like strip down like you know what I mean where it's like movies can kind of like strip down like what
yeah,
you would think a character is versus like the like looking at it in like a human way because it's like you could look at a character and be like oh if I knew this person in real life I would not get along with them but like there's a difference between that and then when you take that character who you might not get along with in real life and apply them to like a situation where you actually like flesh them out as a human. And I think that's like made very interesting in this movie, that like the little like hand holding that gets done. I'm like, who cares? Like it's
Yeah,
like there's so
so
much more to
like on that
think
hand
about.
holding thing, I kind of want to talk about how it's just kind of how M Night movies go. I think necessarily, I think a lot of people would say that like you get hand holding in Lady in the Water, and you get hand holding in Glass and stuff like that. I think M Night works in a way where he likes exposition, and he likes that's kind of how his dialogue works. And
Yeah.
I think he works in cliches, and I think he works in stereotypes, and I think he works in these like kind of that's how his writing is. But I think he works in these. Oh, he also like simplistic concepts. Like we always talk about how like his movies are really easy to sell. It's like the beach that makes you old. It's a cabin. You're in the cabin, and it's the end of the world's gonna happen if you don't kill someone or sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's like they're very simple concepts. He works in simple concepts, exposition, cliches, because it's more than that. He simplifies that side of the story because he wants you to look past it. He wants you to look to the images. He wants to look to the characters. He wants you to look past that whole thing. So I think when people call it hand holding, I think that's just because it's all they are looking at. They're only looking at the exposition. They're only looking at these cliches and the kind of way he formulates his stories. They're not looking past those things. They're not looking at what M Night wants you to look at. Um,
Yeah, it's like it's and this is what I told my parents when I got home after watching the movie. I said that it's a very thematically rich film, but I don't think you like talking to my parents. Like I said that I don't think that you would be able to get through kind of the absurdity of the concept to
yeah,
start to like appreciate like how thematically rich it is. And I think that's true with a lot of people about a lot of M Night movies. It's like I think that he presents something that they identify as like this is fucking stupid, and then they just like check out. They're like, I don't care what you're trying to whatever Christian humbo jumbo you're trying to
yeah.
get me to believe in or whatever, and they're like they're fuck this is dumb, and I'm like come on guys, like
Well,
have some faith,
yeah, it's
like
again,
right
it's just
like
about belief, and it's about believing in the stories that are being told. And then there's a lot of belief aspect in Knock at the Cabin because they don't have their
yeah
phones, they don't have connection to the outside world. They're only in this room with strangers, and they're like two closest like people in the world, and then they have to make these tough decisions. But it's like, what do I believe at this present moment? And it's again, M Night is all about belief, and I think yeah, we talked about this kind of this amalgamation of all these things that M Night really works well in, but a lot of like belief is here, but it's also like the audience has to believe in the movie. It's like a two-way
yeah
kind of thing. Um,
yeah
Yeah,
I
and
think
even like the concept of, but like when you're talking about like that, like a lot of his movies are like religious and have like religious ideas. But I think like when you talk about like the concept of belief or hope or like whatever is like
it's
a
a,
clear like through line in his movies. I'm like these are movies where like you don't like there's like religious films and then there's
yeah.
like this is like these are movies that are like clearly religious, but like you don't have to be religious to like
Well,
appreciate these
that's
there's
movies
like
at
it's a
true.
very
all.
That's what I was
universal
getting
Like
at.
kind of
It's like,
I
yeah, it's
really can
universal.
appreciate that about his movies. Like
Like M Night is a Christian, so he like puts kind of like these like Christian themes in his movies because that is like essential to who he is as a human being. But the thing is like these Christian themes are about having like believing in something, like
yeah,
believing in your family or like something like that, right? Or believing in something bigger than yourself, not like God explicitly, right?
yeah.
And like these ideas are things that are like applicable to like even like non-religious people. It's more about just like do you have faith and literally do you have faith that like
Yeah.
your dad can save you, or
Mhm.
do you have faith that and do you have faith in stories, or do you have faith in like the strength of your family or your children and like
Mhm.
stuff like that. It's not about like
Yeah.
yeah
yeah, absolutely. Do we want to talk about Lady in the Water now? Because I think
Yeah.
Alan
Yeah.
definitely has plenty to
Um
say.
so there's a lot to talk about Lady in the Water. I can kind of just like say my thing, but I think I've always grown up really attracted to fairy tales in that kind of way of telling stories, and I think this comes at a time in M Light's life, but it's really interesting because you coming off the village. and the critics are kind of on him, and he's kind of in this life where he has kids now, and he's in this new chapter, and he's getting new fears. It's a whole new world for M Night. He's never been at this point of his life before. So he's the fear of the critics and the fear of what could happen to his children. And he's telling his children fairy tales at night, and he turns it into this movie where the main character's family was murdered, and he's at this really low point of his life, and
Yeah.
it's so fascinating. And I think he the way he it's just narratively told is again about belief in these. It's like it's the most bizarre bedtime story, but can I believe in it enough to save this girl? If
We're
I
talking about
believe
a
in this story, do I need to believe to kind of save this girl that I just met? And I think it's a very emotional film. I think M Night talks about it being the most to him of all his movies, and I really
yeah.
kind of that seeks through for me. And I think it kind of there's a mix of this being a film that I gravitate towards because of the themes that I kind of am interested in, the kind of stories that I'm interested in, and then the emotional kind of M Night in it all that I really enjoy. And I also think we talk about performances. I think Paul Giamatti is a king and for the M Night on the M Night rankings. So he's one of the best performances, in my opinion. I think he's brilliant in that movie, and I think he kind of it's like one more. It's like the forgotten M Night movie in a way, because
It is
you
definitely
talk
the
about how
forgotten M Night movie.
After Earth, and you talk about how Last Airbender are these big misses, and then you just talk about the other ones, and it's often like just left off the list, which is interesting. Like I think M Night just calls it like his most unseen movie.
The fact it
Well,
gets
and I
left off the
think
most hated list is like that's crazy. It's like it
It's
even
just
gets
like
snubbed.
yeah,
It even gets
it's just
snubbed off the
forgotten.
list of like
because
It's
public
just almost like
opinion.
because
just
it's
a forgotten
underseen
movie.
because I think it's like his only bomb. I think it's like the only movie that he made that
Yeah, no, it was like a
like
seven.
bombed
I
at the
think it was
box
like
office.
70 million budget, like 70 million box office.
Yeah.
So and it's
Whereas
also
like all
like
of his movies make money except for this one didn't
it's
make
also
money.
one of those things where it's like, you look at the Last Airbender and it's immediately you're like, oh, connection to the show. You look at After
Yeah.
Earth, immediately connection Jaden Smith, Will Smith. It's a
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti fantasy movie, a fairy tale movie. It's just like
Yeah.
it's a movie that's not gonna get talked about a lot, but it is
It's
my
like
personal favorite, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Uh, and I kind of gravitated towards it, but it is a movie that is just kind of forgotten.
it's like by far M Night's silliest movie, I
Yeah,
think. It's
silliest
so
in
I
its
was
the
so
Yeah.
story.
because I watched The Village. I watched Signs, The Village, and this in order in
Yeah,
one day as
mm-hmm.
they're coming out, and like this kind of gave me like whiplash because I was like, this is so fucking different. Like this is
Yeah,
so
yeah,
silly compared to
yeah,
the other two movies, which aren't necessarily like the most serious movies ever. We're not talking about
yeah.
like The Godfather, but it's like it's so because it's like literally. It's about like Bryce Dallas Howard's character is literally named fucking
Story.
Story.
Yeah.
It's like the allegory couldn't be any fucking
Oh, yeah.
clearer, and it's about like these fucking like fictional kind of like spirit dogs, and it's about like
Yeah, and
Paul
then there's like an
Giamatti's like
eagle, and there's like these monkey, like green monkey, like they're all
yeah
like
monkeys,
grass textured, and there's like these
yeah,
monkeys and eagles, and
and
Bryce
Paul
Dallas
Giamatti
Howard
is
looks like she's never seen sunlight in her life. She
and
looks,
she's like naked the whole
yeah,
movie, and
yeah,
Paul Giamatti is a fucking landlord.
yeah, and he's like stuttering the whole time, and he's and you have like, and then there's like a movie critic who is just like so up his ass, and that he just knows everything, and he there's this
it's like a
great
cartoon basically.
yeah it's like it's again with these fairy tales and these like over exaggerations of cliches that he uses to
Yeah,
tell really heartfelt stories. And there's a great line where it's like, what kind of person would be so arrogant to presume to know the intention of another human being? They talk about the critic, and it's just like
that's fire.
it's M Night in this kind of like it's really emotional state where he's like, my kids, I don't want anything to happen to my kids. I have fear for my kids. I have fear for my career. There's just like all this is happening, and that he's like in the movie, like he's just like a side character, and he's a writer, and he talks about like, I think this is what I'm writing is really important, but like, are
Mhm.
they going to like kill me for writing this? Like, this is
Yeah, and honestly, even now, like I think the movie has aged really well,
yeah,
like the
especially because
thematically.
that happened, and then he literally the next movies like did horribly worse. Like, it was like
Yeah.
he was talking about the fear of his career before the last Airbender happened.
Yeah, he was talking about how like how much like critics misunderstand him, and I like he's just scared of like how he's gonna like age as an artist through this world,
Yeah,
right? And then his next three movies were fucking The Happening, Avatar:
yeah,
The Last Airbender, and fucking After Earth.
yeah.
Like he wasn't even
It's
crucified
Well,
yet.
it's like yeah, they hated, like, they didn't like the village, but it wasn't like you are the worst human being ever kind of thing. And he
Yeah,
literally
the Village reaction
prophesized
was
his
very much
career.
critics being like, "Okay, M Night, like, come
Yeah,
on, dude, you're making
yeah.
stupid movies,"
And that
And
hurt
he was
him.
like,
That
"Fuck."
hurt him, and he
Yeah,
was like, and he was in this very emotional state. But he's basically saying, like, in the movie, he's saying like, I think what I'm writing is really important to me, and I hope that it can inspire people down the line. But I think they're going to kill me for this. Like, they're going to wreck me for this. And then it's also like the critic about the intention thing, as we talk a lot about the
yeah,
happening and how people clearly miss the intentions of the movie. And he like kind of predicted that in the way that he's gonna make movies that people are just going to completely misunderstand. And it's
yeah. It's
like it's insane how well prophesized he kind of prophesized his career, because like he could see it starting to happen, but it happened like it like the gates flew open after this movie. And this is his first like widely rejected film. Um
yeah.
as well.
This was kind of widely as like I think this is like universally accepted as
His
M Night's
first miss.
first miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Um.
which is it's because they were like it kind of like it was like a kind of a slow hill thing where it was like the Sixth Sense, and then you make Unbreakable, and then you make Signs, and then The Village, and then like Lady in the Water. Like, what happened? And I mean, it's obviously like making a movie saying the critics are fucking stupid is like probably not the best way to get critic approval. But I think it's fucking
Yeah, but
baller. I
it's
think like that's fucking
yeah, it's
awesome that he did that shit. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm really drawn to everything going on in this movie. Um, but I obviously like I get why people aren't as big of fans of it, but I think it's fascinating.
it's I
Yeah.
think Lady in the Water is it's like well so especially with when Signs came out, right? And everybody was like, "Holy shit, this guy's the next Steven Spielberg," you know?
Yeah,
Like
it's
that's like there's like that I think it's like Life magazine or it's like one of those
something like
magazines where the
that. Something
cover
like
was
that.
like it was like him, him when he's like in his like late 20s, like he's like 28 years old, 29 years old on the cover of this magazine and like the on the cover it says the next Spielberg,
Yeah,
and it's like this crazy like, trying to put him in kind of like this bubble of like what kind of what people are expecting from him. Like they want him to make like these, these like very Spielberg movies and like this kind of thing. And he loves Spielberg, right? And like he wears those like that influence
yeah,
on his sleeve. Like Lady in the Water is very much like a movie like that is like in some ways like cinematically a tribute to like his love for Spielberg. But that's not who he is, He was
yeah.
like, I want to like figure out who I am as an artist.
Well, he talks. Like, there's a great bit where he's talking about talking to his daughter about selling movies, and he talks about how, like, with Lady in the Water, he had no idea how to sell this movie. It was just like probably a lot of it why the box office failed. Like, it was like he had no idea how to sell this movie. He just knew it was a story he had to tell, and that was really like
Yeah.
all. Like, it was just like this emotional kind of, I need to let this out. It wasn't like, because it's, you talk about how like old is like, oh, it's the beach that makes you old. Lady in the Water is a little more like muddy. It's kind of like
All
it's
right,
just
so
it's
all right, Harvey Weinstein. All right, the Lady in the Water is about it's about this guy who's a landlord who's really sad, and then he meets this nymph, like this water spirit nymph lady that's
yeah,
really attractive, right? And then but then like there's a bunch of wacky characters in like in the apartment complex that the
yeah,
landlord manages, and then there's like spirit demons that are trying to get him, but he has to protect the lady, and the lady's name is Story, right? And then in the apartment complex is going to be a writer that the lady has to find. And it's like, what are you
yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
It's like
No,
no,
it's
it's like
like
literally
you
one of
know,
my
I'm
favorite
gonna play the
critics.
writer, and I'm writing things that are so
Yeah,
important that the next leader of the America is going to read it, but they're gonna kill me for this. It's like it's so absurd, but it's so like kind of brilliant in its absurdity. that I'm really drawn to it.
David
Yeah.
Sims, who's like the writer for the Atlantic. He's like the staff critic for the Atlantic.
Yeah.
He describes Lady in the Water as the ramblings of a madman, and
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
I've seen
that's
that
kind of
that
yeah.
review, and
That
I
kind of goes
kind of
hard, by the
no, yeah,
way.
I like I
It's
almost like I think like it's almost like kind of how I feel at times. Um, but it's like yeah, I think it is like the ramblings of like this mad scientist that is fucking brilliant, but it is still ramblings, and there
Yeah.
but there is like deep, powerful meanings behind these ramblings. That I think is
Yeah.
awesome.
I don't like have much about Lady in the Water because it's like, yeah, it's definitely lower on my list, but I think it's just more like how much I enjoy it because I think like what you describe is really like where I stand on Lady in the Water where I'm like I what I appreciate about the movie is like everything that he's going for, like everything that he
Yeah.
like that like
Yeah,
he needed to make this movie, he needs to stay true to himself and like that's what I appreciate about all his movies is like I just like the fact that like he stays true to himself and like since this movie encapsulates it, I could really like respect
yeah,
it for that. I just
and
don't
it's
like connect with it as much as
Yeah.
a lot of the
Me
other
and
movies.
Kevin see eye to eye on this movie a little bit in terms of like where our opinion lies, I think. We're
Yeah.
like neither of us love the movie, but it's like for me it's like I I like it, but it's like for me it's like I watch it and I'm like, damn, this guy's fucking crazy. Like a crazy person made this movie.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about our number two pick, Old, because this is another movie that you guys have way more to say about than I do,
Fuck you, Kevin.
which is fine. You know, I'll talk about Signs, but you guys talk about Old, because I don't. Yeah, there's not much
yeah.
about this movie that I'm like a major fan of.
So a lot of people and so many people like just like reuse the same fucking shit when they try to defend M Night, where they say that like, oh, M Night's the only filmmaker that's using visuals as like his main storytelling device. I've seen literally 5 people just copy and paste that same fucking take. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with you, but can you be a little bit more original?
Yeah,
But
like
like
I
I think
mean, add a little more beef onto that.
yeah, but Old is the prime example of that. And I made like a TikTok a couple weeks ago or something where I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
M Night is a master of composition, right? And somebody commented saying like, you guys should throw the word master around like it's crazy. And I responded like very seriously. I was like, no, M Night is a master of composition.
yeah.
Like study
Like
the
oh,
visual
like
language of
like
Old,
old is
and you will
brilliant.
become yeah, like if you study the visual language of Old, you will come out the other end of that academic session as a better with a better understanding of like cinema as a language. Like the movie Old can only be made by somebody like M Night who is so in tune and is so just
Yeah.
like able to use the camera as I don't know, dude. It's
Yeah.
there's
No,
so many impossible shots in Old where I'm just like, fuck, dude, this is genius. Like,
I think the reaction to old is kind of sets the place we are to like today in like film criticism because I think
yeah,
the like you talk about old online to make a TikTok about old or something. There's so many comments. There's so many people saying like this is one of the worst movies I've seen in
yeah,
years,
like
and it's like
there's so
what are we talking about? Like it's like I just feel like you hate to bring stuff like Marvel into this, but I just feel like the way that mainstream cinema is so narratively structured, and it only works through a narrative. People have become so numb to the image itself that they can't even like acknowledge the great like image like visual language happening here. It is
it's
it's crazy.
so it's like kind of like I feel like so with the happening right where people were like and I tried to just like had to defend the happening and be like I'm trying to make like the greatest B movie ever,
Yeah,
right?
well, you
I
did it
think
here.
Old is legitimately the greatest B movie
Yeah.
ever made because like the plot of the movie is very much like this is like it's like a B movie plot where it's like oh like what's like a shitty kind of like idea for like a really
Yeah.
low budget horror movie. It's like
Yeah.
so a family goes to a beach and the beach makes them really old and it's like
Yeah.
all right like well that's stupid but whatever. But then M Night takes that and he makes what I legitimately think is like kind of a masterpiece on top of it. Like, what
Yeah,
are we
I
talking about? Like
it's all I mean it's beautiful, and I think like having it on this really tropical beach, it like you're able to have it look like this color palette is amazing, and I think you're working with some really interesting actors. Like you don't have a like I don't even know who you would say the biggest name is here.
The guy that plays, well, no, what's his name? Alex Wolff would be
Alex
the biggest
Yeah,
name.
Wolf,
Alex. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. Gael Garcia Bernal is definitely a
That's
pretty
That's what I'm saying.
big
Like
Gael
all of
Garcia
these guys are
Bernal.
like
name.
medium. Like they're like everyone. People know them, but it's not like not like you have like a Dave Bautista or even like a Mark Wahlberg. Like it's not like a poster name guy, right? But I think all these performances work really well, and again, M Night knows how to get these performances out of them. And I think people talk about how this is like the worst dialogue in acting ever in history, and it's like, well,
I'm gonna
no,
kill those
like,
people.
yeah, it's like, what are we talking about? I think it's I don't know, it's very interesting. It is one of
Yeah,
those kind of
no comment.
movies. I was, and yeah,
No, I'm kidding.
it is a very interesting movie, especially like because it is recent. It's 2 years ago, and it is heralded by many as like this achievement of fucking visual language, and then and then the opposite side of it is like this is the worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's like even like real like film like people that are like really love film and like want to go to school for film studies and all this stuff. Like
Yeah.
we have a mutual friend who I won't name obviously, but like
Let's
they
drop them
have
on the board.
no, but they have a letterboxd review that really kind of bothers me. It's not a really big deal, it's whatever, but like it bothers me because like the review is basically just being like it's like a 1-star review or whatever, and they basically just write like this movie is so fucking awful or whatever in their review, and then they commented on their review basically saying, I hope M Night never gets to make a movie again about Old. And I'm just like,
Yeah, no,
what
I know
the
what
fuck?
you're talking
What?
about. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that's it is. I think that's like, especially like you don't have to like Old, whatever. But I think saying that M Night should never make a movie ever again is kind of a clear misunderstanding of his impact and like his talent as a filmmaker. Because I mean, some people like, yeah, sure. If you think M Night has some misses, or you think you don't like some of his movies, but he's undeniably swinging for the fences every time. And I think
Yeah.
as a creative and as a filmmaker, you can only actually ask for him to continue to make as many movies as he wants. And that is the thing is
And
he's pumping these movies out, and he's got like 3 planned, and he's just like this mad scientist of fucking
yeah,
visual like
it's
fucking language.
I was telling my friend this when I was driving to go see Knock at the Cabin. I was like, man, he's working. He has 3 more. Like this movie just came out, and he has 3 more movies coming out.
Yeah.
But it's like his filmography is already so like big and strong that it's like he should
Yeah.
be like 70 years old, but he's only like 50,
50,
and
yeah.
he's still working.
No, yeah,
But,
we
like,
might get like 20 more M Night movies. Like
20 is a lot. We might get like 10 more M Night movies.
20. We're getting 20 more M Night movies. No, I think
But
if we
with-
get like 10 more, yeah. But it's
But-
like interesting because I think today like modern directors aren't making that many movies.
Yeah.
Like his peers, like their
Yeah.
filmog, like because Tarantino's a weird one because he has like this weird rule, but it's like that like 10 kind of average is like kind of for most people. Like I feel like
Yeah.
he is kind of a workaholic in the way that he just wants to tell as many stories and kind of spread his kind of beliefs as much as he can, and he's so into it that you can't help but be fascinated by his fascination of his own stuff.
Another thing with Old that I wanted to bring up is that, and this is like, because I will say something like, I think a genius could only make Old, or like I'll say something like that where I'm like Old could only have been made by like somebody with such a strong understanding of how like the cinematic language and like style of film, and people will be like, you're a fucking idiot, or like they'll like get like a really like strong reaction, like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, it's
and,
like
I think I'm stupid.
Old is
I'll
a
ask them
movie you
to
can't make,
break out, like,
you couldn't make by mistake.
yeah, but then I'll push back, right? And I'll be like, okay, like, why do you disagree with that take? And then all of their complaints will have to do with like the writing of the movie or the concept of the movie. And I'm like, but study the visual language of this movie is actually insane. Like,
Yeah.
because it's not just like Decision to Leave, for example, where it looks amazing and it's like
Yeah.
fuck, like it's like you have to be like Park Chan Wook, you have to be like a genius to be able to even like attempt to pull off
Yeah.
the way, like the style of this movie, right? um it's more than that, because like, yeah, Old is super impressive and it's like you have to be so fucking smart to even pull off so many of these shots, right? But it's also like it's thematically relevant. Like the movie looks impressive, but the movie also upholds like the thematic tone and like what the movie is about. Like there's like the scene in Old very towards the beginning when they first get into their room at the hotel, where like the camera is out. It's like a the camera is outside of the windows looking into their room, and it's swinging back and forth like a pendulum, and it's all one shot, and the kids are coming in and out of frame, and the wife is walking outside, but you see her through the reflection of the window. Well, it's like swinging like a pendulum, and I'm like, fuck, dude, that's so smart. Anyways.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
to add on
Like,
to the visual stuff, I think like especially when people are talking about the dialogue, is I think I've seen this movie maybe 4 times now, and I think every time I watch it, I'm like kind of gaining these little tidbits of dialogue. Everything is like so purposeful. Like
Yeah.
every bit of dialogue is like has something to do with these themes at hand. They're always talking about, when you're older, we'll do this tomorrow. Well, all these like everything is so deeply rooted in the theme at hand that I really don't understand the dialogue complaint, because I think like what it's like the intentions at hand and the themes, it's so deeply rooted in them, I'm just like I love the dialogue in Old. I
Yeah,
really
and
like it.
people, it's like
I
M
could
Night
comment
in
on
this.
it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't really
Oh
like the
yeah, you're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
dialogue
push
that
back.
much.
Do tell,
Yeah,
do
I mean,
tell.
okay, but here's the thing, and like this is why I kind of don't agree as much. And this is what I noticed when I rewatched the movie, because I was like, I wasn't even gonna rewatch this movie, but then when I rewatched it, I was like, okay, well now I recognize like a significant difference, because there's the people who watch Old and they're like, this dialogue is so bad that this entire movie sucks, right?
Yeah,
And now
yeah,
when I rewatched it, I'm like, that's kind of a crazy take, because it's like, how can you just take the dialogue and be like, the like this entire thing is
nothing
just a
else.
mess, when I'm like, and that's what I noticed, where I'm like, I don't like Old because it just like doesn't connect with me. I'm like, this is just boring to me, and like it doesn't really, I don't know, like I think it's like I can see why people connect with it so much, but I'm like,
Yeah,
thematically and like what he's exploring definitely doesn't connect with me as much as pretty much all his other movies. So I just like
that's valid.
can't
That's
really
valid.
be
yeah.
I can't really be
You just don't
engaged.
really
But I'm
care
like,
about it.
yeah, but that's when I'm like, so that's really where the dialogue is a problem to me, is like, I don't think that the dialogue is so much a problem as it is like, I'm not engaged in this movie, so now I'm focusing on how this dialogue sounds silly. But like people who are just like, this dialogue sounds silly, so the rest of the movie isn't engaging, that's like reversing that doesn't really make as much sense to me, because then I'm like, you're not really respecting anything else
Anything.
going on here.
Yeah,
And like what Doug says is true, where it's like that it's visually like one of his best movies, I think, like without, like nobody could even debate that, like it's just like masterfully shot. So it's like, how can you see that and just be like, this
yeah,
movie has nothing to offer just because the dialogue's bad?
yeah.
I don't know, like that's kind of like my
It's
reappraisal of the movie upon
yeah.
rewatch, because I'm
No,
like,
I could
there's stuff to
totally.
like about this
I could
for
totally
me.
get like not being into it. I do think that like there's so much criticism in this movie that is just baffling in a way. Like it's like it's
Well, it's
so
people,
clear that we don't watch movies the same. When it's like it's
it's
like
because the thing that's like, so what I appreciate with Kevin, that like
yeah,
he's
no,
doing way more than what most people that don't like the movie are doing,
mhm,
which Kevin
yeah,
is giving partial credit. Kevin is like, I
yeah,
don't think it's thematically interesting to me, where he's like, yeah, I don't think that exploring time in the way that he's exploring it is
yeah,
very interesting to me, and that is like a fundamental disconnection I have with the film.
yeah,
But he's giving partial credit because he's like, yeah, it's like, but it's shot really well, and like, this or that or whatever.
yeah.
But like most people are just being like, oh, this movie, like they talk
There's
weird in this
nothing.
movie, and like doesn't know how to write dialogue.
Yeah,
It's a stupid fucking concept. His name is Midside Sedan, same worst movie ever, half a star.
it
And
is
I'm
like
just like,
yeah,
bro, you're
it's
not
just
like, they're
like
not even giving partial credit. They're not even trying to like look for like the things that make this movie really
yeah.
fucking special, you
There's
know?
yeah, it's so it's weird. It's like it also comes from the part of like this guy made the last Airbender. Like of course he's bad at
This
movies. Like of course he can't make movies. It is weird. I mean, I think so. Yeah, I kind of come from a place because I know Kevin was talking about how he doesn't really connect with it. I am deeply connected with themes. Like I think uh, M Night and me kind of share a lot of interest in the themes that he's exploring, so that really helps me kind of buy into what he is selling. Because like all of the stuff about time, I'm deeply like fascinated with. Um, but then again, like it is so visually amazing that it's just like this is kind of like one of the best movies of the 2020s, and it's absurd that it is treated like one of the worst movies of the 2020s. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so like
yeah.
opposite town. Like it's just bizarre.
It's weird because I think like Kitty. It's weird because I think like the popular like I think like the general consensus of like the hive mind of like culture has labeled Old as like a trashy genre film. When I'm like that's crazy because like I think Old is legitimately like a genre masterpiece where it takes like this like very genre like kind of like generic horror concept, right, and it makes it into something like really special.
Yeah.
Like really, and we haven't even talked about the acting. There's so much to break down with
I
Old
mean,
because
yeah, I
like
mean,
even like
we could talk about old for like a whole
yeah
fucking
yeah yeah
podcast,
yeah
but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's. I also think we kind of talked about the endings of the other movies, but I do like Old's ending a lot. Especially like
that's another reason
that
Yeah.
I like it.
whole scene when they're like in the water and they're like the briefs and stuff. It's fucking beautiful. Like, and again, like you got the big like kind of twist at the end where, it's they're using this beach to kind of advance medicine, and then there's another kind of question being asked there is like, what is kind of too far in terms of like advancing science, and there's just like
Yeah,
it's thematically just so fucking rich. But
and it is silly. I
oh
can
yeah, it
acknowledge
is
that it's
silly,
silly,
it's a fucking
but
silly
it's
movie,
like
but it's
yeah, it's a silly movie exactly. Like we're talking about, it's a
but I think
genre movie. It's a
again we talk
movie
about
called
how M
Old about
Night,
the beach that makes you old.
yeah,
Like
it is it is M Night, it balances things very well again. Like it's like, yeah, it is silly, it's a silly concept, but there's no playing around in this terms of the camera. Like we will have fun
yeah,
here, but he's not fucking around with the way he's shooting this movie. Like it's like, and it's undeniable, and I think it just kind of shows how visual language is kind of
the,
dead. Like the visual storytelling
true.
is dead
Yeah.
in the eyes of the average viewer because
Well,
it's just something nobody looks for. They don't look for it.
there's this kind of thing that we've been talking about online recently where some people have like brought up where it's like oh, people don't understand what cinematography is, like the like
Mhm.
so like the general like the layman's like people like
Yeah,
that doesn't understand how to make a movie that like just like whatever go watch Marvel movies or whatever, like they don't like
yeah.
when they think of the word cinematography they think pretty screenshot, they
Yeah,
think
no,
like
it is
screensaver,
they
when
think
it's
so
so much more than
cinematography
that.
is a wallpaper moment for them.
Yeah,
It
right,
is a
yeah.
let me screenshot this, put this on my computer desktop. It is not how the
It's
camera
like
moves or operates
let
or
me pause the
composition.
Batman, right, and be like, and then sit back and be like, that's looks so pretty while it's paused. It's
Yeah,
like there's so much more than
yeah,
just like pausing the
yeah.
movie.
Because yeah, there's movement of the camera. There's so much going on, but I don't know. It's almost like I feel like I could pause old fucking any fucking time and be like, that's a wallpaper moment. So it's almost like
Well,
there's all of it there. Like it's just really it's so brilliant that it's bizarre to me that it is kind of going
with
over
old,
people's heads.
maybe it's not like a wallpaper moment, but maybe like I could pause old or play like any like
Yeah.
15-second like section of old and think like and like try and like really like break apart like from like the fundamentals, break it apart
Yeah.
and like why did he chose like this like lens length, why
Yeah.
are these characters blocked here,
We didn't even
like
kind of about the lens thing. We didn't talk about Knock at the Cabin, how he's like using these like shitty old
true,
cameras. And
yeah,
people,
he's using
I'm
like
sure there's people that are like, this was shot weird or whatever. Like he like, couldn't even
Knock on the
fucking.
Cabin was shot weird,
But
and
it's
that's
like,
what I
yeah,
appreciate
exactly.
about it.
It's like it's
Like,
shot weird on a fucking purpose. Like, can we like
yeah,
have some like actual thought behind our brains today? I don't know.
Yeah, there's
Let's.
definitely, yeah, there's a discussion to be had. I do think that we for the
We
sake
got
of time,
yeah,
should
we got
talk about
We
our
should move
number
on.
one movie on our list.
Fuck, there's a movie
Um,
even better than Old.
yeah.
Ah!
Um,
I don't
yeah.
believe it.
Signs
I
is
don't
number
buy
one.
into it.
It's number one on my personal list. It's also right. You said Doug number one on your personal
Yeah, this is
list.
also my favorite
Um,
M Night movie. I know
this
it's not Owen's. I'm
yeah.
sorry, Owen. That was mean.
This
I don't know.
movie
I
is
like science.
yeah, this is everything that I've come to appreciate about M. Night wrapped into one movie for me. I think that this
Mel
movie,
Gibson. I'm just
like,
kidding.
I stop.
Yeah,
So
no,
Mel
no,
Gibson is
seriously.
amazing.
Oh,
No,
he's
Mel
good
Gibson
in this
is
He's
amazing.
movie. He's good in
amazing
this
in
movie.
this.
But this is like everything that I've learned to like appreciate about his movies to me is either almost at the best or at the best in this movie. Like there like it just hits on every single thing that I want to like in the movie, where I'm like, I think this is his like funniest movie. Like when you're talking about like how a lot of his movies are silly, I'm like, this one's not as like technically it's like kind of silly, but it's not like silly the way you would say like Old or The Happening is silly. But this is
Mhm.
easily the one that like makes me laugh the most because like the comedy actually like is effective to me. and
Yeah.
and then in like going along with that, it's also the most emotional. Like I literally watched this movie I watched last night and I cried 6 times. Like
I
I was
think
crying
there
for a majority of this movie.
if somebody told me this was the scariest M Night movie to them, I would also
Yeah,
understand.
that as well. That's what I'm like. This is suspenseful. It's funny. It's
Yeah.
emotional. Like it has everything, and like thematically, like so interesting. I think the way that it explores humanity is so interesting. The way that like all of his other movies do, like the idea of like faith and like belief that like is so relevant in all of his movies. I'm like, this movie literally has a priest in it. Like there's, a, like
The main yeah, the
if
protagonist is
you're
a
talking
priest.
about yeah, like if you're talking about movies and like how all his movies talk about faith, it's like bro, this movie's literally about a priest. Like he's like it couldn't be more like a more clear example of him discussing faith than this movie. And I think that the way that that is explored with like the fact that he lost his wife so recently and how like he deals with that and like the concept of family and how it's explored in this movie and how he's like constantly like there's like those scenes where he like tells his kids like how they acted when they were born, and I'm like, how do you not cry watching this? Like it is so like it's maybe one of the most emotional movies I've ever seen in my life,
And it's
actually.
about aliens. Aliens are
Yeah.
fucking cool. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing where it's like when we're talking about twists, it's like the like you would think that like, oh, like I don't know, at least when I was watching it, obviously I knew how the movie I had seen it before, so it was a rewatch, so like I knew ahead of time. But it's like you would think that there's going to be like, when you're watching this and being familiar with him, it's like, oh, maybe they're not aliens, maybe it's something else, and it's like, no, they actually just
or
end up being aliens.
yeah, or
Like,
maybe you're thinking like, oh, maybe the twist is like, oh, maybe the aliens are like friendly and they're
yeah,
misunderstood. And it's like,
exactly. It's
nope,
like
they're
no,
friendly. The
they're
aliens.
really the twist is kind of that there is no twist. Like the twist is kind
Yeah.
of just that like the movie plays out the way that you would expect a movie to go.
Yeah,
um
because even like I remember rewatching it, I was like, because I didn't really remember. No, this is the first time I actually hadn't seen it before. I watched it for the first time prepping for this podcast, and I was thinking for like the end by the end I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like the aliens are like misunderstood and like they're nice,
yeah.
and then it's like no, the aliens like actually are just trying to like invade like
Yeah,
straight
no,
up.
literally, they're just aliens. But I think that's
What?
interesting because it comes so early in his career. So it's like I think that's the best time to do something like that, where it's like because immediately like he was kind of like cemented as like, oh, he's the guy who has the twist, and then like the next thing you do is like turn like turn it by being like, oh no, there is no twist, and like that's a big twist
Yeah.
because of how early it happens in his career. Because
Well,
like
I
you go
think
into the
Yeah,
movie expecting it,
it's
and it's not
funny
there.
how he is kind of labeled as that. He, I think he's funny how he's labeled as certain things because I think he works in so many different kind of areas. But I also think when you're talking about the alien thing, oh, I was okay. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So I think with the alien thing is again, I think it is working with his cliche kind of things and his stereotypes, and it's like the alien invasion
Yeah,
movie, and it's like that's kind of the cliche kind of area he's working in, but he's using this alien invasion thing that everyone's so familiar with to tell this really heartfelt story. Um,
yeah,
because it's like
Because it's
you
like
don't
the
have
aliens
to
don't really matter.
it's you know
Like,
yeah it's like the aliens are kind of there to add this kind of suspense and like this it's to move the narrative along, but it's really like way bigger than that. And that's what I think is fascinating about it because I think it's like I don't know, but
yeah.
obviously like, the performances are brilliant. M Night's
Oh,
in
Mel
there.
absolutely. Mel
Gibson's
Gibson is
is okay.
genuinely terrific in this movie. Which,
I have a
like,
take. I have a
yeah,
take. Mel Gibson's best performance, and it's not close. I think
I
it's his best
I wouldn't
performance by a
even, yeah,
lot.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't even
I don't
disagree
know
with
how
that.
much
Like
Mel
fuck
Because
Gibson I've
Braveheart.
I
seen.
also I don't really care about Mel Gibson, but I also
Yeah,
don't like Braveheart. So it's
really.
Yeah, I
like,
was gonna say
Yeah.
fuck Braveheart, bro.
yeah. So like
Yeah. Again,
this movie doesn't have
performances.
competition.
Rory Culkin, another great child
Yeah.
performance as
Abigail
well as
Breslin is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
another.
just
child actress.
yeah,
Like she's
yeah.
like,
No, like two really strong
yeah,
child performances. M Night continues to kind of do that whole like child
yeah.
performance super like he just I don't know. It's like it just feels like he gets the most out of those performers.
Yeah, well,
Even his
because
wife in that one scene is like amazing, and she's only
yeah,
there for like a minute.
Yeah.
well,
Like,
I think M Night, like he's kind of like a real like people say like, oh, I'm a child at heart. I think M Night is like a child at brain. Not saying that he's like
Yeah.
dumb or whatever or like
Yeah.
ignorant,
Yeah.
but I think
yeah.
that like it's like he like thinks about the world in the way that like children think about the world. You know what I mean?
And he
Because
talks
like
about that all the time.
there's that one moment in
Yeah.
Glass, right,
So good.
where the
Miss
where the
Kevin and
McAvoy character, yeah, Kevin's dying,
yeah.
and who's the character that says it? Is it Glass
Well,
or
so he's not dying. It's Jesus.
oh, it's in the cell.
It's in the
Yeah, where
cell, and
Mr. Glass.
he's talking about it. He's like, because he's Hedwig. He's 9 years old forever, and he's
Mhm.
Yeah,
talking about. He's like, what is my superhero, Mr. Glass? And he's like, you're nine forever, like, and you're gonna see the world as it truly is.
as it truly is forever, since you're a kid
It,
forever, and
and
I'm
it's
like,
like it's totally like it's just the M Nightification of it all. It's like that is how M Night
yeah,
sees the world, and he's
exactly,
working with
yeah,
these cliches, he's working these fairy tales and these comic books, and it's just like this kid genius kind of thing going on, but he's like 50 years old.
yeah,
It's awesome.
where yeah, where it's
Yeah.
like M Night has like these really great strong like children, just not even just performances, but just like like children elements in his films, because like he like believes in that, and like he like really believes, like he tries to see the world from like kind of like a child's point of view, and like it's like he's just like, man, like adults are dumb. It's like I think another, I hate to keep referencing the same people, but like I think David Sims also has like this take on Old, where like the dialogue in Old, where he basically says that like M Night doesn't understand, like he doesn't get how adults talk, and he just like he
Yeah.
thinks that like he understands how kids talk because it's simple, but he doesn't understand like adults are like he, from his perspective, adults are just like, oh, taxes, IRAs, like whatever,
Well,
and
Yeah.
M Night like, doesn't understand that, so he like thinks about dialogue from a child's point of view.
when you think
um
about Old and the way that M Night is able to have these great child performances, the whole movie, like most of the movie, is carried by these actors acting like children. Like
yeah,
they're child
Because they're
performers,
because they're growing up, but
and
like,
they grow up and there's new
mm-hmm,
yeah,
actors, but they're acting like children still.
yeah,
And I think it's
yeah,
like maybe the most like brilliant decision on M Night's part about like, oh, okay, I'm really good at getting like working with children and child performers. So like the whole movie is kind of about like everyone's acting like a child. Um,
yeah.
and
I think having that worldview makes those movies like more hopeful too. You know what I mean? Where it's like, and not
yeah,
just hopeful,
it's
but
like the child like
like
optimism.
especially like when you apply to like, at least for me, like when you apply to like signs, where I'm like, this
that's
is
just
like what I was gonna say is like what I was saying before about how his movies are like very human, and like that like how I like that thing about like stripping characters down to like what like really makes us human. And I think that Signs does such a good job of that, specifically because it's like it's a movie about faith, and like very outwardly a religious movie, where as like I'm not religious and I connect to this more than any of his other movies, you know, because it's like
mm-hmm,
because I think that he like takes this character who like, you know, who is a priest, like a character who I typically wouldn't connect with, but like strips us down to like these very human things, like these very like real human connections that like he has with his family, that just like that's so effective. And like that's really what he does in all his movies. But yeah, like for Signs, for me at least, like that's where I'm like, this is that at its best, because I'm like, I care about all these characters so much. Like all of that resonates with me, like the way that he explores
yeah.
that.
And talking about like, you know, like like his like child focus view on the world and how that applies to his movies. In Signs, like the kids save the day. You know, like they set up like this whole like the girl has like this weird fucking thing where she has to have like she has like a bunch of glasses of water all over the place because she's really like has a weird thing about water, right? And then that circles back. It's
M.
really
Night
funny.
himself has
It's
a weird
so
thing
silly.
with water.
Does he?
Yeah, I mean, you got Unbreakable, and you got Lady in the
Oh
Water,
shit.
and then Signs. There's all these,
Oh
and there's
yeah.
there's a great line.
Is M Night scared of water?
Well, there's this
No, is he
great
scared of water?
there's this great line in Lady in the Water, and I don't remember what it is, but it's something about how like the it's Paul Giamatti and the critic character, and they're talking about water and like what it could mean, and he says something about like how it's purification, and then the critic's like, no, that's stupid. It's so funny. It's just so funny.
I remember that scene. So it's like Paul Giamatti is talking about like, oh, but couldn't water mean like a pure heart or like or like no like baptism and
Yeah.
coming out the other side like a more pure person or whatever. And like the critic is like, no, that's too obvious. Like, that's
Yeah.
Like,
but it's like M. Night is so deeply in these like water metaphors that it kind of is throughout his career. And I think it's funny because it is another thing. It's like with Signs, its critique of the movie is like, oh, the water is their weakness. It's so stupid, and I think it's kind of way more than water. It is kind of like water is its own theme, in a way
Yeah.
that is deeply evident in M.
Yeah.
Night's career.
yeah.
Do you guys have anything else to say about Signs?
The water wait,
Okay.
in Signs, because like the water is also like because water is like pure, right? And
Yeah.
it's like with the child, like the girl has like this like weird thing with water where she only
Yeah.
like she can't drink stale water. Like the water has to has to be pure, right?
Yeah.
And when you
Yeah.
leave it out, it gets like stale, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like child purity.
Yeah.
Um,
And then
oh,
and then
it's
old's
fucking
on a
good.
beach, and there's water, and you can't.
Oh, and there's water on the beach of Old. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, no,
I
water.
never noticed that when I watched it,
Well,
actually.
it's M. Night is deep. It's interesting because you kind of, I don't know, you immediately go to James Cameron, but it's a completely different thing. But there's water is kind of so evident in the thematics of film.
Yeah.
It's just like it's such an interesting, and I think I am drawn to that kind of. I like movies that incorporate water because it is this weird like thing going on, and I guess Avatar: The Last Airbender, you do have the water benders there.
Oh my god, yeah,
Yeah.
there's waterbenders.
But yeah, there's just water
and in
everywhere.
the happening, the plants need water, right?
Okay, now you're
Because
just
they're plants.
now you're just.
No,
reaching.
I mean,
It's like I was with you on the Avatar thing, and then as soon as you said the happening, I was like,
there's
"Where is
probably
this
one
going?"
we're forgetting.
No, and also
Wide
like
Awake,
I mean,
right? There's water
oh,
fountains at the school.
Yeah.
no, but also like the thing is, like, I mean, I'm not gonna get into it because I definitely can't explore it like well enough. But like, it's also like there's definitely I imagine that the water is there. Like the water is a thing in Signs probably also because of like how it ties into religion. Because like
holy
like
water.
like holy water. And
Well,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
we
There's
talked about
definitely there's definitely something there
with
conceptually.
Lady in the Water, he
like,
talks
oh,
about
how
the
he uses it.
baptism stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and wait, and like how like the water kind of like burns the aliens or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like doesn't that feel kind of like similar to how in like a horror movie like The Exorcist or something like holy water would burn
Yeah.
the demons,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah,
kind of like a religious
there's-
kind
yeah,
of like
there's definitely
idea
something
too.
there. I don't know. The one thing I want to say about Signs is that like I think that this entire M Night binge for me was worth it because I truly think that Signs is maybe one of my favorite movies ever. Like when I remake my list of favorite
Same.
movies ever at this point next year, there's no doubt in my mind that Signs is going to be very high on that list.
Yeah, Signs. I can't like give you like a number or whatever, but I know for a fact Signs is one of my favorite movies. This
Yeah.
movie is very special to me, but I'm more like outwardly, I'm more religious than the both of you
Yeah.
are too. So it's like I
Yeah.
think that's a big reason why I also connect to this movie a lot, because it's themes about faith and stuff. But it's
Mhm.
like this movie is. I have so many fucking crazy takes about this movie too because I already said like I think this is Mel Gibson's best performance. I think this is my favorite Joaquin Phoenix performance
Oh,
too, actually.
that I would not say at all, but that's
he's really
I'm not
good.
gonna
very
argue.
interesting.
I'm not gonna get into a debate and say like
Oh
this is the
no!
best
I mean,
performance
I'm
or
just saying
anything.
like for
Yeah.
me personally.
Another
but-
argument. We'll say that for the Joaquin Phoenix episode when Joker 2 comes
Yeah.
out.
For when
Um,
Joker 2 comes out.
that's so silly. Okay, let's wrap up. I'm gonna finish things by reading off our final M Night Shyamalan ranking,
Starting
our
from the
our
bottom.
consensus ranking from the bottom. This is how we
The
rank M
official
Night's.
looks like a movie
Yeah,
ranking of M. Night Shyamalan's filmography.
yeah. This is how we rank them. So starting at number 13, we have The Last Airbender. At 12, we have The Visit. At 11, we have The Happening. At 10, we have The Sixth Sense. At 9, we have Split. At 8, we have After Earth. At 7, we have Glass. At 6, we have Unbreakable. At 5, we have The Village. At 4, we have Knock at the Cabin. At 3, we have Lady in the Water. At 2, we have Old. And at 1, we have Signs.
It could be worse.
I
It could be
think
worse. I agree.
personally it makes so much sense because I think it's very clear when people have like they have favorites with M Night because like he is so different in different parts of his career. So I think this
Yeah.
list is such a jumble of like different parts of his career because there's
Yeah.
three of
Yeah.
us.
And
But
I think
like
it's an interesting
no,
I think it's an interesting reflection of us too, because I'm looking
yeah,
at like my because I have the list like pulled up and I'm looking
yeah,
at all my ratings for the movie and I'm like, this is why it's interesting to me because it's like some movies that I have ranked low are low on the list, and then some movies that I have ranked low are high, and then but
yeah.
like also some of my
It's
favorites
it's
still
it's
are high.
definitely
So it's
like
like
I
I'm
think
like
we kind
happy
of
with
got
where
that
everything is
we
kind
kind of got
of.
that perfect mix
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
because it's
I'm
like
pretty happy with this.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think we
It
did a
makes
solid
sense.
I think we did
It
a
makes
solid
sense.
job.
Yeah, no, I think
Um
It could have been
somehow
way worse.
somehow we kind of yeah. It's
yeah,
like
no, we
we
definitely
bullied
I
Kevin into making After Earth #1 or something. Like.
Yeah.
honestly, I went into this thinking that you guys would bully me significantly more, but I'm pretty happy with where most of my stuff ended up on the list. Like the only real thing I had to like give serious like room to was Old, but like I'm not even that upset about it because it's like one, I know how much you guys both like it, and two, I like it's not like I can't appreciate it. I just
Yeah,
don't.
it's just not for you. It's more of
Yeah,
like it's like you don't think it's bad necessarily. It's just
yeah,
like not
And I
for
think
you.
that we all traded off things kind of like pretty equally,
Yeah.
because like we put The Sixth Sense pretty low on the list,
and
even
that's one
though
that I really
Kevin
like.
really loves
Yeah,
that movie.
Yeah.
And we
Lady
put
in the Water is
Signs
really
like,
high on the list as well, and
oh
me and you don't have Lady in the Water that high
yeah,
either.
Yeah.
Lady
It
in the
was like
Water is like
it
pretty.
was like a Lady in the Water Signs like trade there. Because it was like it was like Signs like 10 for me. And I love
Yeah.
Signs, but it's just not at the top for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it was like
I do think
it was
there's
like
no denying that if two of us share the same number one, that is pretty
Yeah, yeah. I
impressive
mean,
considering how opinionated
I
we could be
can't be
about both these
mad
movies.
with Signs at 1 when it's Old 2 and there's
yeah,
Lady in the
it's like
Water
a
at
trade
3.
off, right? Like we got to put Signs at 1, so Kevin was like more okay with putting Old at 2, and then
Yeah,
Owen was more
exactly.
okay with putting Lady in the Water at 3.
Because
So it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
It works. It all at
it
the end
Yeah,
of the
worked.
day it works.
I
we
feel
did the
pretty
best we could.
good about it.
Yeah.
I think like there's like some weird stuff, like the glass placement is weird for all of us. I think we all feel
Yeah,
kind of weird
because
about the
it's
glass
like
placement
I mean, the
because
glass
like I
actually
would have it
funny
lower,
enough,
you would have it higher. Like
Glass ended up on our list exactly where I have it ranked on my personal list. So
that's crazy.
that's
yeah,
yeah,
because I
that's
think well you are
interesting.
kind of the middle. You're the
Yeah,
middleman, I think.
yeah,
Where is it?
definitely.
Yeah,
6
maybe
or
wait, no,
something?
maybe this was like the maybe we somehow stumbled on like the
Where is
perfect
Glass for
list
you,
for the
Kevin?
three of us.
Glass is
Where
number 7 on my personal ranking, and it's number 7 on our
Yeah,
list.
so it's 4 for me, and then it's what is it for you,
Yeah,
Doug?
I
Like
don't know.
at
It
the
would be
end?
it would be a little. It would probably be like 10 or
Yeah,
11
so
for me.
yeah. I think we did
I
good
think
with what
we
we
kind
had.
of ended up in the like best area.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there's obviously it's not going to be like the perfect reflection.
it's a
Like if we
yeah.
wanted the perfect reflection, we would literally have just averaged all our ratings out and
Yeah,
just
Or
fucking
we would have just like
generated the
not done
list.
a
Like
communion thing. We would have just done
yeah,
our
yeah, we
separate
would have
list,
just
but that's
like went. We would
boring.
have done when we did with the
Yeah.
top 10 movies of the year, and we
Yeah.
would have just went in
No,
order.
but I think this was a lot of fun, and I we should do this with
Yeah,
another director at some
yeah,
point.
I definitely
Obviously,
yeah.
agree.
maybe with
A
not as
director
many
with
movies
like
as M Night.
70 movies. Like,
No,
it's
because
like a
M
Yeah,
Night kind of
Michael
has like
Snow group rank.
because M Night has like 15 movies. We did 13 of them because
yeah,
we didn't
Those
all
were
watch all
cheats.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
a little bit.
So
It's
I watched
fine.
Glass 4 times instead of watching another movie or something.
That's ridiculous. Okay, yeah, let's wrap up. That's
All right.
our M Night ranking, and that's going
What
to
are we
wrap
doing
up the
next week?
episode. Next week we are going to talk about Magic Mike
Oh
3,
fuck
and we're
yeah!
also
Okay.
going to be talking about some other romantic movies because that episode will be coming out just in time for Valentine's Day.
Awesome.
So yeah, we'll see everybody next week.